Chapter 101 Terrifying Yellow Springs Water, Qin Haoyan's Jealousy. At that moment, hearing the screams, the Yao race and the myriad flowers divine palace people all looked towards the source of the screams. They saw an old man, shrouded in death qi, unable to resist the temptation of the undying divine tree flower, heading straight for the immortal god tree in the center of the lake. Just as he reached mid-air, he was suppressed by a mysterious force, and with a scream, he fell directly from the air into the lake. As if knowing what was about to happen, the old man shrouded in death qi instantly burst out with a powerful immortal emperor realm aura, his body shining with golden light, propping up a golden shield, and falling into the lake. Just as he fell into the lake, everyone was surprised to find that the golden shield was instantly corroded by the lake water. No matter how the immortal emperor old man poured in immortal spiritual qi, he could not stop the golden shield from being corroded. The next moment, a scene that made the Yao race and the myriad flowers divine palace people's scalps tingle appeared. They saw that immortal emperor expert with a look of horror, pouring all his immortal spiritual qi into his feet, tried to use the golden shield to fly back to the shore, but was shocked to find that he was suppressed by a mysterious force and unable to fly. At that moment, the immortal emperor expert shrouded in death qi watched helplessly as the shield was corroded. The next moment, the immortal emperor expert fell into the lake. Immediately, a miserable scream rang out, and the immortal emperor expert's physical body was corroded by the lake water, disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye, revealing crystal-clear, jade-like bones, and finally letting out an unwilling roar. This emperor is unwilling. This emperor is unwilling. The divine treasure is close at hand, close at hand. As soon as he finished speaking, the sound disappeared, and a crystal-clear, jade-like skeleton slowly sank to the bottom of the valley and disappeared. A dignified immortal emperor expert did not even have the slightest resistance and was corroded by the terrifying lake water, turning into a pile of white bones. At this moment, seeing this terrifying scene, several young disciples from various forces could no longer bear it and lost their minds. Letting out an ah sound, as if they were mad, they headed towards the entrance, but their eyes widened and they cried out in despair. It's over. It's all over. The way back is gone. The way back has disappeared. We're going to die here. All of us are going to die in a Vici hell. Ha, ha. At this moment, hearing the crazy shouts of these disciples, everyone turned their heads in shock and discovered that just as everyone's minds were focused on the immortal emperor expert just now, the road they had come from had disappeared. At this time, in front of them was endless darkness, as if it was controlled by some mysterious force. As soon as those disciples approached, they were bounced back. Several figures appeared and knocked out those disciples who had lost their minds, and then handed them over to their own sect members. If they continued to shout like this, not only would they easily suffer qi deviation, but it would also affect the minds of other young disciples. At this moment, Luo Qingshan and Hua Xuan, who were standing next to Yi Xingchen, saw Yi Xingchen shaking his head slightly, and couldn't help but ask at the same time, "Husband, Emperor Yi, why are you shaking your head?" At this time, hearing the two women's questions, Yi Xingchen smiled slightly and said, "Wife and Xuan, do you know what the water in the lake in front of you was called in ancient times?" At this moment, hearing Yi Xingchen's words, the entire lake surrounding area, and the various forces, instantly quieted down. And Luo Qingshan and Hua Xuan, at this time, hearing Yi Xingchen's words, also looked up at Yi Xingchen. Hua Xuan's pretty face was even red, and her beautiful eyes were full of curiosity. This immortal god tree is one of the 10 ancient divine trees. It is extremely precious. Its flowers bloom in 9 blooms, and each flower blooms in 9 petals. Taking one petal can eliminate hundreds of diseases, prolong life by 1,000,000 years, and even have the opportunity to comprehend the law of life among the highest laws. But the growth environment of the immortal god tree is extremely special. It needs to grow in an ancient divine water to make it immortal. This divine water is called Yellow Springs. Hearing Yi Xingchen's words, Wei Wendao and several other hidden world forces leaders' expressions changed drastically. Wei Wendao even directly said, Could this be Yellow Springs water, one of the ancient divine waters?" Hearing Wei Wendao's words, Yi Xingchen couldn't help but look up a little surprised, and then smiled slightly and said, "That's right, the water in the entire lake in front of you is Yellow Springs water, one of the ancient divine waters. It can corrode all things and make all things immortal. Of course, you have all seen this immortality. In fact, it is to make anything without life immortal. But the heavenly Tao has all things, yin and yang generate and restrain each other, and things will turn against themselves when they reach the extreme. Who would have thought that the immortal god tree, which can prolong life by 1,000,000 years, must have Yellow Springs water, which can corrode all things to survive. It has to be said that it is really magical. At this moment, hearing Xingchen's words, everyone was shocked and speechless. No one thought that the Demon Clan Emperor actually knew so much. Suddenly, a voice full of sarcasm rang out. "Oomph. Who knows if what you said is true? Maybe some people are just talking nonsense in order to win people's attention." Hearing this voice, everyone turned their heads to look, but found that it was Qin Haoyan, the holy son of the hidden Qin family. At this moment, he was looking at Xingchen with a face full of sarcasm, and when his eyes glanced at Luo Qingshan and Hua Xuyan beside Xingchen, his eyes were full of jealousy. And the Yao race and the Myriad Flowers Divine Palace people all frowned slightly when they heard Qin Haoyan's voice. Xingchen seemed not to have heard Qin Haoyan's words, turned to look at the direction of the immortal god tree, and directly ignored Qin Haoyan. Seeing that Xingchen ignored him so much, he was immediately filled with anger. Just as he was about to say something, he was stopped by Qin Muji, who said something in his ear. It made Qin Haoyan calm down instantly, turned his head to look at Hua Xuyan on the side, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. At this moment, seeing that there was no good show to watch, everyone turned their heads to look at the direction of the immortal god tree. At this time, Xingchen's voice rang out again, and he said to Luo Qingshan and Hua Xuyan, "Now that the way out is gone, we can only continue to move forward. I think the end of Avicii Hell should be the only exit of this small world." Hearing Xingchen's words, Luo Qingshan looked to the front, separated by Yellow Springs water, a river surface thousands of meters wide, and said, "But husband, the front is completely blocked by Yellow Springs water, and you can't fly in the Void Realm. We can only find another way." Hearing Luo Qingshan's words, Xingchen smiled slightly, looked at the two women, his eyes full of tenderness, and said, "Wife, Xuan, do you want that undying divine tree flower? This flower has no attraction to this emperor. If you want it, this emperor will pick it for you." Hearing Xingchen's words, many forces around showed disdain in their eyes. Is this Demon Clan Emperor also a person who talks without restraint? And Su Longxiao, Wei Tianji, Flame Emperor Wudi, and even Huangfu Bubi, hearing Xingchen's words, turned to look at Xingchen, with no trace of disdain in their eyes, but with anticipation. They all know Xingchen a little bit, and are definitely not people who like to talk big. Since Xingchen said it, there must be a way. At this moment, Wei Tianji said something in Wei Wendao's ear, and Wei Wendao was shocked, turned to look at Xingchen, his eyes full of thought. And Luo Qingshan and Hua Xuyan, who heard Xingchen's words, hurriedly refused. They didn't want Xingchen to be in any danger. Looking at the two women's worried looks, Xingchen smiled helplessly and took Luo Qingshan and Hua Xuyan's hand in public, and came to an open space very Clasido Yellow Springs water. Luo Qingshan didn't have much reaction, but Hua Xuyan's pretty face was instantly red. This was the first time Xingchen had held her so intimately, and it was in front of so many people. How could Hua Xuyan not be shy? But no matter how shy she was, Hua Xuyan did not break free from Xingchen's hand, but bravely glanced at Xingchen and held Xingchen's hand tightly as a response. And the top forces of the Divine Wilderness were also shocked by this scene. Qin Haoyan frowned slightly when he saw this scene, and then a strong look of brilliance burst out in his eyes, with a strange look on his face. After everyone from the Yao race and the Myriad Flowers Divine Palace came here, Xingchen said, "Everyone, do you believe in this emperor?" Hearing Xingchen's words, the Yao race and the Myriad Flowers Divine Palace people all nodded with smiles on their faces. Even a fool can see now that the relationship between the Yao race and the Myriad Flowers Divine Palace will be very close in the future. Seeing everyone nodding, Xingchen smiled slightly and said to everyone, "In that case, this emperor will take you across the river." After speaking, Xingchen waved his hand, and a green divine light appeared in Xingchen's hand. Everyone turned to look and found that it was a section of green vine, exuding a green divine light, and was directly thrown into the Yellow Springs water by Xingchen. The next moment, a huge warship exuding green divine light appeared in the Yellow Springs water. Originally, many forces showed a look of disdain when they saw this scene. However, the next moment, a scene that shocked all the forces appeared. Chapter 102. The crowd is shocked. The undying divine flower is obtained. At this moment, every member of the various factions stared at the suddenly appearing giant warship with disdain, eager to watch it corrode in a moment. Yet the next instant, Xingchen waved his hand and declared, "Board the ship. This emperor will ferry you across the river to claim the divine flower." The moment his voice fell, the Yao race and every disciple of the Myriad Flowers Divine Palace leapt aboard without hesitation. Xingchen flicked his sleeve, releasing a stream of immortal spiritual power. The warship shot straight toward the center of the Yellow Springs Lake, untouched by the corrosive waters. Gasps of shock swept the onlookers. What sort of sacred object had the Demon Clan Emperor produced that dared defy the Yellow Springs water? The warship glided away, drawing ever closer to the immortal god tree, still showing no trace of corrosion. Unable to sit idle any longer, factions scrambled into action. Even an immortal emperor from the Hidden World Force's 10,000 Beasts Valley seized a divine wilderness disciple and hurled him toward the tree. That immortal emperor suspected the mysterious aerial force had vanished, until the disciple plunged into the Yellow Springs, screamed once, and sank as a skeleton. The master of that divine wilderness faction glared in fury at the immortal emperor, yet dared not utter a word. After this incident, every major power grew wary, especially the top divine wilderness clans, who kept their distance from the newly emerged Hidden World forces. Only then did everyone realize the mysterious power had never disappeared. The Demon Clan Emperor Xingchen must possess a supreme treasure immune to the Yellow Springs. All eyes turned to the warship nearing the immortal god tree, brimming with envy and some Hidden World forces with darker schemes in mind. Aboard the ship, Yao Race and Myriad Flowers disciples gazed at Xingchen with deeper adoration and respect. Beneath the colossal trunk, disciples of both groups yearned to soar upward, only to be pressed back onto the deck by an unseen force. Had the deck not been there, the consequences would have been dire. On the shore, several factions burst into laughter, forgetting they themselves couldn't even cross the Yellow Springs. Xingchen smiled faintly and said, "Do not be hasty, especially before temptation. Keep calm. This emperor promised to fetch the divine flower with you, and I will fulfill it." As his words faded, he swept his hand. Under every observer's stunned gaze, the entire warship began to transform. In moments, the massive vessel suspended in the Yellow Springs lifted into the air, morphing into a flying boat. Shock swept the crowd. What treasure was this green vine that Xingchen wielded, able to change form and ignore the mysterious aerial pressure? Those aboard the flying boat stood frozen, gazing at Xingchen with overwhelming excitement. The boat rose slowly until it reached the crown of the immortal god tree. Against the starry sky, the sight left everyone aboard awestruck. Only at such close range could one truly appreciate the majesty of the divine tree. Its jade green leaves shimmered like crystal. Golden runes glowed along dragon-like branches, exuding an air of mystery. Xingchen waved, and 9 undying divine tree flowers wrapped in immortal spiritual power drifted before him. He took 2 blossoms and, smiling gently, approached Luo Qingshan and Hua Shuyan. "My wives, Snow Smoke, these flowers are for you." Luo Qingshan cast him a charming glance and accepted the bloom. Long attuned to his heart, she knew refusal would sadden him. Beside her, Hua Shuyan blushed crimson, fingers twining in shy agitation. "These undying divine tree flowers are too precious. They belong to Emperor Yi alone. Snow Smoke cannot accept." Seeing her shy demeanor melt her usual coolness, Xingchen felt a surge of tenderness. He gently took her hand and placed the flower in her palm. "Between us, there is no yours or mine." His words and clasped hand drew playful smiles from the Myriad Flowers disciples. Crimson flushed Hua Shuyan's lovely face. She gave a soft assent and carefully stowed the bloom. Xingchen pocketed another blossom for Xiaoya Jun, recalling the noble mistress of the Purple Firmament Palace, wondering if she had safely returned and whether her sect had also entered Avicii Hell. With 6 flowers remaining, he flicked his wrist. Every Yao and Myriad Flowers disciple found a petal of the divine bloom hovering before them. Golden light bathed their faces. A single petal could extend life 1,000,000 years. Yet Xingchen gifted it freely. Smiling at their excitement, he said, "Put them away. Coming to Avicii Hell is your opportunity. How could I let you leave empty-handed?" At his words, Yao, clansmen, Myriad Flowers disciples, even great Emperor Lu Ruosu, bowed in gratitude. "Thank you, Emperor, for the treasure." Only then did they reverently store their petals, knowing these could become heirlooms for future generations. When all were served, Xingchen found 1 blossom with a few extra petals left. With a casual sweep, he stored them away. On the shore, every faction watched crimson-eyed with envy, yet could do nothing. Trapped, they still relied on Xingchen to reach the opposite bank. Having stowed the ancient divine vine, Xingchen led his group to the far shore. Noting the path ahead, he remarked, "Let's move on and see what other treasures await." The factions on the opposite bank paled. This wasn't the rescue they expected. Wasn't Xingchen supposed to ferry them across? As his party began to vanish from sight, panic erupted. Life mattered more than treasure. Just as they started to shout, a soft sigh echoed, followed by a resonant voice. "Emperor Yi, please stay." Name your price to bring the Su family across. Though a kilometer away, Xingchen heard the corner of his mouth lifting. Halting, he mused inwardly. I wondered when you'd finally reveal your trump cards and ask for help crossing the river. Chapter 103 Mysterious Valley, Abyss Poisonous Miasma. At this moment, hearing this voice, Xingchen turned around, glanced at Su Longxiao who had just spoken, ignored Su Longxiao, and said with a smile, "Is there anyone from Purple Firmament Palace here?" As soon as Xingchen's voice fell, a middle-aged woman stood up and said, "Purple Firmament Palace Elder, Cloud, Peace Spirit, Demon Clan Emperor, if you are willing to send Purple Firmament Palace disciples to the other side, Purple Firmament Palace is willing to offer hundreds of millions of spirit stones in return." Cloud Peace Spirit was also strange in her heart. Why Xingchen would ask about Purple Firmament Palace? Their Purple Firmament Palace and Xingchen have no intersection. Unless this person is also for the Palace Masters. In the next moment, Cloud Peace Spirit frowned, but still spoke out. No matter what, let the Purple Firmament Palace disciples leave here first. Is the most important thing. Cloud Peace Spirit knew that these forces in front of her must have other ways to get to the other side, but they must be trump cards, not to be used easily. After all, this is a Vichy hell. Who knows what more dangerous things will happen next? Just like their Purple Firmament Palace, they also have trump cards that can go to the other side, but they are far less easy than Xingchen. But precisely because of this, these forces are not too nervous or afraid. If there is really no way to cross the river, these forces would probably be anxious. After all, no one is not afraid of death. Hearing Cloud Peace Spirit's words, Xingchen smiled slightly. He didn't expect that someone from Purple Firmament Palace would really come. When he saw Cloud Peace Spirit frowning, Xingchen immediately understood Cloud Peace Spirit's thoughts. However, in order not to bring unnecessary trouble to Purple Firmament Palace, Xingchen did not answer Cloud Peace Spirit's words. Instead, he looked at Su Longxiao and said, "Old Su, considering that we once had a meeting and you spoke out to help this emperor will teach you a way to cross the river." As soon as Xingchen's voice fell, Qin Haoyan and Qin Muji's eyes lit up, and they couldn't help but look at each other. Qin Haoyan's eyes flashed with a condescending and strange light, and he thought to himself, so it's just an ant-like existence, not a member of the Hidden World Forces, and he dares to speak wildly, threatening this saint. This time I go out, this saint will let you experience the power of the Qin family, including your women, and that mysterious tree vine, all belong to this saint. Thinking of this, Qin Haoyan looked at Luo Qingshan and Hua Shuiyan with a wicked smile. At this moment, hearing Xingchen's words, Su Linger next to Su Longxiao was unwilling and said squeal. "Grandpa, although we can't pick the undying divine tree flower, it's not impossible to go to the other side. Why do we need him to teach us of?" Hearing Su Linger's words, Xingchen was also speechless. This little girl is still angry. After looking at Cloud Peace Spirit and Su Linger with frowned eyebrows, Xingchen said, "The thing that can cross Yellow Springs water is right in front of you. This emperor will go to the front and wait for you." As soon as he finished speaking, Xingchen turned around and led the Yao race and Myriad Flowers Divine Palace people towards the front. Hearing Xingchen's words, the major forces frowned, and suddenly a schwa sound rang out, the sound of weapons being unsheathed. I saw an old man from Blade Pavilion, slashing out with a knife, turning into a several-height blade shadow, and slashing towards the immortal god tree. Seeing this scene, many forces suddenly realized that they had all entered a misunderstanding. From the beginning, when someone took action to compete for the undying divine tree flower and fell into Yellow Springs water and died, to the later, when an immortal sovereign powerhouse used immortal spiritual power and also fell into Yellow Springs and died. They instinctively thought that there was a mysterious power here, and they could not use any move, but now they were awakened by Xingchen's words. The Blade Pavilion powerhouse slashed out with a knife, and a section of the immortal god tree branch fell down. With a casual grab, a suction force sucked the branch over. All the Blade Pavilion people jumped onto the branch. The Blade Pavilion powerhouse waved his hand, and the branch went towards the other side. The immortal god tree, which can grow in Yellow Springs water, is definitely not afraid of Yellow Springs water erosion. Everyone then reacted and launched moves one after another, attacking the immortal god tree. For the huge immortal god tree, this little branch is nothing to it. The scene changed, and Xingchen and others had arrived at a huge valley. Looking at the valley in front of them, everyone had a feeling of entering an abyss. The entire valley was covered by a layer of cyan mist, and a crotch beak cold meaning emanated from it. Looking at it vaguely, it looked like a giant abyss mouth, waiting for people to devour. However, deep in the valley, there was a constant flash of divine light, flickering, and even the cold air was carrying a strong, fruity fragrance. Xingchen stopped and felt several powerful auras behind him. He smiled slightly and said, "The speed is really slow enough. We came all the way slowly, and these people have only caught up now." As soon as Xingchen finished speaking, the major forces had already flashed to the front of the valley. Each force looked at the direction where Xingchen was located intentionally or unintentionally, with greed in their eyes. After all the undying divine tree flower had been obtained by Xingchen and the others. If it weren't for the fact that Xingchen's side had many immortal sovereign powerhouses and even a great emperor powerhouse, I'm afraid they would have been robbed by these forces long ago. Looking at the greedy eyes of these forces, Xingchen found that there were fewer forces. Without thinking, he knew that they should have been buried in Yellow Springs. Xingchen was too lazy to think about why these forces were buried in Yellow Springs, and he didn't care about the greed in these people's eyes. As long as they didn't provoke him, they could do whatever they wanted, but once they provoked him, it was very simple: just slap them to death, saving trouble. In the next moment, the major forces realized that there were flashes of divine light in the valley, and the cold air was filled with the intoxicating, rich, fruity fragrance. All the forces showed excitement on their faces and couldn't help but exclaim, "Ancient divine fruit." As soon as he finished speaking, dozens of figures rushed into the valley at high speed, and even shouted directly, "Haha, this ancient divine fruit, is this Emperor's?" However, the next moment, a scene that shocked everyone appeared. Among them, dozens of immortal sovereign powerhouses and 2 immortal emperor powerhouses only entered the valley for 100 meters, and they started attacking each other as if they were crazy. The 2 immortal emperor powerhouses found something wrong and wanted to retreat in horror, but were shocked to find that the immortal spiritual chi in their bodies was movement of a cylinder everywhere, out of their control. One of the immortal emperor powerhouses swelled up like a balloon being blown up, getting bigger and bigger. With a bang sound, flesh and blood splattered everywhere. He was actually blown up by the immortal spiritual chi in his body that he could not control. The immortal infant in his body even let out a scream and turned into nothingness. The other immortal emperor stood there stiffly, motionless, bleeding from all 7 orifices, and had already lost his breath. Even the immortal infant in his body did not have time to escape. The people of the major forces who saw this scene were shocked and retreated away from this huge valley. Wei Wendao at this moment looked at the dozens of powerhouses who died almost instantly and couldn't help but sigh and said, "As expected of a Vichy hell, Shan Huang Forbidden Land, known as the place of Emperor's Tomb, it is simply a pit every step and a danger every 10 steps. From this moment on, all Shinji Mountain disciples are not allowed to act without this Emperor's instructions." Hearing Wei Wendao's words, the other major forces also warned their disciples not to act rashly. It has only been so long, and dozens of immortal emperor powerhouses have fallen here. They don't want their disciples to follow in their footsteps. At this moment, Qin Muji and Huang Fububi came to the front of the valley. Looking at the valley covered by cyan mist, they both showed a sure enough expression. Qin Muji even said directly, "This cyan mist should be the ancient taboo, abyss poisonous miasma, which exists in giant valleys. You need to hold your breath and pass through quickly when entering it. Otherwise, if the time is too long, the poisonous miasma will seep in from the skin. Those who are poisoned are likely to chi deviation, enter a hallucination, unable to calm their minds, and lose their nature. If the poisonous miasma enters the blood, the body will be out of control, the immortal spiritual chi in the body will riren, the meridians will be invaded by the poisonous miasma, and even burst open on its own. Even great emperor powerhouses are no exception. Moreover, there is no solution to the ancient poisonous miasma, but fortunately, this emperor has tranquil mind pills here, which can resist this abyss poisonous miasma and help you pass through the poisonous miasma." As soon as Qin Muji finished speaking, he waved his hand, and a red medicinal pill appeared in front of everyone. But there was nothing in front of the Yao race and Myriad Flowers divine palace people. It was obvious that Qin Muji did it on purpose. Looking at Xingchen, Qin Muji looked proud, raised his eyebrows, and said to Xingchen, "This emperor knows that you're a 9th-rank alchemist, but it is impossible to carry spirit pills that can solution abyss poisonous miasma with you. If the Yao race needs it, this emperor can also exchange some for you with an undying divine tree flower. As for Myriad Flowers divine palace, the same needs a flower." As soon as Qin Muji finished speaking, Shen Huang's top force, Lingshu Hall, led by one of their immortal sovereign elders, entered the valley. But they did not go far away, but stood at a distance of 10 meters from the exit. At this distance, they can return even if there is a problem. Besides, they have closed their breath and taken the tranquil mind pill. The elder of Lingshu Hall still very much believes in the name of the hidden Qin family. If they can pass this matter and get in touch with the hidden family Qin family, then in the future, Shunhuang continent, Lingshu Hall will have a powerful backer. Just when everyone was watching the people of Lingshu Hall, and there was no problem, a golden immortal realm disciple of Lingshu Hall actually made a strange hee-hee sound at this time. The faces of all the forces around the entire valley changed drastically, and the audience was silent. At this moment, Qin Muji's eyes widened, with an unbelievable look on his face. Chapter 104. The Terror of Avicii Hell, slapping the Qin family's face. At this moment, the surroundings of the valley were completely silent. As that hee sound rang out, everyone was shocked to discover that the Lingshu Hall disciples all had smiles on their faces, involuntarily emitting hee sounds. This hee sound exploded directly in everyone's hearts, and the scene at this moment made everyone's backs tingle. The immortal Emperor Elder of Lingshu Hall also noticed something was wrong and came towards the outside of the valley at top speed. After all, a distance of only 10 meters was just a thought away for him in the immortal Emperor realm. However, the next moment, that immortal Emperor expert's face was flushed red, his eyes widened, his whole body trembled, and his body fell uncontrollably to the ground. Driven by the instinct to survive, the immortal Emperor expert kept climbing on the ground, trying to crawl out of the valley. However, the distance that was once 100 times away, with a single thought in his eyes, seemed to be separated by the river of time, and no matter how hard he tried, he felt it was out of reach. The next moment, this immortal Emperor expert from Lingshu Hall trembled all over. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He stopped breathing, and the immortal infant in his body flew out, instantly stained with a layer of cyan color, let out an unwilling roar, and then turned into countless golden energy particles, dissipating in the cyan poisonous miasma. Everyone looked at this scene with horror. In a short period of time, how many immortal Emperor experts had died? This was an immortal Emperor expert, almost the top combat power in the divine wilderness continent. This is not roadside cabbage, a realm that countless people can't reach in their entire lives, but now they are buried here forever. The name of the Emperor tomb is indeed well-deserved. Those disciples whose cultivation was not high enough saw this scene one after another, and their hearts were greatly impacted. Several disciples could not bear this huge impact and fainted. These disciples are all here to participate in the Great Yin Dynasty's competition between the disciples of various forces. They are all the top disciples of the major forces, and now their faces are pale, and some have even fainted. From this, it can be seen how big the impact is. Even some immortal sovereigns and immortal emperor experts, whose hearts were extremely strong, frowned slightly when they saw this scene, and their hearts jumped faster involuntarily. Xingchen looked at the Yao race disciples and the myriad flowers divine palace disciples, all of whom were also pale. If this continues, it will be extremely detrimental to their future cultivation. After taking a look at Qin Muji, Xingchen instantly had an idea, and he could only divert the attention of these disciples first. So he smiled slightly and sighed. Alas! Sure enough, upon hearing Xingchen's sigh, the eyes of the Yao race disciples and the myriad flowers divine palace disciples all focused on Xingchen, and even the disciples of other forces cast their eyes on Xingchen. At this moment, Luo Qingshan and Hua Shuyan, seeing Xingchen sigh slightly, couldn't help but come to Xingchen's side and looked at Xingchen with worried faces. The two of them were also afraid that Xingchen would feel uncomfortable because of what happened just now. Looking at the worried looks on the faces of the two women, Xingchen secretly winked at the two women. Luo Qingshan and Hua Shuyan were both smart women, and they instantly understood what Xingchen meant and rolled their eyes at Xingchen. Looking at her husband with some amusement, Luo Qingshan said charmingly, "Why is my husband sighing?" Hearing Luo Qingshan's words, Xingchen smiled knowingly at the two women and said, "Alas, as expected, you get what you pay for, and you are still self-righteous." This emperor thought, how effective would it be? Just this? Still a family that specializes in refining medicinal pills among the hidden world forces. Is that all there is to it? They even wanted to exchange such rubbish for the undying divine tree flower. Pity these people from Lingshu Hall, who originally thought they had embraced a thigh, but as a result, they didn't embrace the thigh and got themselves into trouble. A dignified, immortal emperor expert, truly sad and lamentable. At this moment, everyone from all forces widened their eyes and looked at Xingchen with disbelief. This Demon Clan Emperor is simply too awesome. He doesn't take the hidden Qin family seriously at all. Not only does he not take it seriously, but he also rubs it on the ground nonstop. At this moment, hearing Xingchen's words, all the Qin family members looked at Xingchen with angry expressions, and Qin Muji even said to Xingchen with murderous intent in his eyes, "Humph. Xingchen, You must be very clear about the principle that disaster comes from a mouth. Do you think that the Yao race has monopolized all the undying divine tree flower and can really sit back and relax? Hee, your idea is too naive. It's not your turn to comment on how the Qin family's medicinal pills are. Who do you think you are? In this emperor's eyes, you are just an ant. Do you really think you are a member of the hidden world forces? You are just. Qin Muji wanted to say something more, but a figure flashed past, and suddenly three consecutive sounds rang out. It was actually Xingchen who, after hearing Qin Muji's words, directly took action and slapped Qin Muji 3 times. This time, all the forces were really shocked. Who is Qin Muji? He is the second master of the hidden Qin family, an immortal emperor realm expert. But now he was slapped 3 times in the face by the Demon Clan Emperor in front of everyone. This is even more shocking than the immortal emperor being killed just now. At this moment, Qin Muji widened his eyes, as if stunned, touching his cheeks with his right hand, feeling the burning pain on his face. Qin Muji seemed to have come back to his senses. A terrifying energy erupted. His eyes instantly turned red, and terrifying killing intent was released. He slapped Xingchen directly with his palm and shouted angrily, "This emperor will kill you!" The great emperor expert from the Qin family was about to take action, but was directly stopped by Lu Ruosu. Nearly 30 immortal emperor experts from the Yao race and the Myriad Flowers Divine Palace directly surrounded everyone from the Qin family. Qin Muji's terrifying attack was also easily resolved by Luo Qingshan. At this moment, everyone was shocked by the situation in front of them. The Qin family was completely suppressed, almost crushed. Qin Muji also slowly woke up at this moment. The look in his eyes towards Xingchen still carried strong killing intent, but feeling the situation in front of him, Qin Muji said word by word, Xingchen, you will regret it." Hearing Qin Muji's words, Xingchen's eyes were full of mockery, as if looking down at an ant, and he said, "In this emperor's eyes, you are not even as good as an ant. If you dare to speak again, this emperor will directly kill you." As soon as he finished speaking, a shocking killing intent gushed out from Xingchen's body and pressed directly towards Qin Muji. Feeling this terrifying killing intent, Qin Muji saw real killing intent in Xingchen's eyes. Qin Muji had no doubt that if he spoke again, Xingchen would definitely kill him. At this moment, looking at the expressions of all the major forces around him watching the show, Qin Muji's face was flushed red, and he couldn't wait to find a crack in the ground to crawl into. He was the dignified second master of the hidden family. Where had he ever suffered this grievance? Looking at Xingchen, the killing intent in his eyes grew stronger and stronger, but in the end, he did not make another sound. At this moment, Qin Haoyan lowered his head even deeper, not daring to look at Xingchen. Now, in Avicii Hell, the Qin family's strength is indeed far inferior to the Yao race. No matter how angry he is, he can only lower his head. Looking at those disciples who seemed to have completely forgotten about what happened in the valley just now, and their faces were no longer pale, the killing intent on Xingchen's body disappeared instantly, and he laughed loudly. "Everyone, do you feel much better now?" The impact of what happened just now on the disciples was really too great. If it continues for a long time, it will be detrimental to all the disciples. Therefore, I can only put on a show with the Qin family to make all the disciples forget what happened just now. It seems that the effect is very good. At this moment, all the forces looked at Xingchen, their mouths twitching with shocked expressions. This Demon Clan Emperor actually used the hidden Qin family to put on a show. This is simply too disrespectful to the Qin family. Although the Yao race is now stronger than the Qin family in Avicii Hell, if they go out, how can a Yao race be a match for the Qin family? The power of the hidden world forces is something that the top forces of the divine wilderness cannot understand. This time, the Yao race and the Qin family have completely torn apart. Even a Myriad Flowers Divine Palace has been dragged into it by Xingchen. With the Qin family's temperament, the Myriad Flowers Divine Palace will not have a good ending. Qin Muji glanced at it, but did not speak. He was not stupid. Just now, he saw a real killing intent in Xingchen's eyes. He did not doubt at all. If he had really spoken just now, then he would probably be a corpse now. You guys look. Suddenly, a terrified voice rang out, causing everyone to come back to their senses and turn their heads to look in the direction the voice was pointing. The next moment, everyone's eyes shrank, their hair stood on end instantly, and bean-sized beads of sweat slid down their foreheads. It was as if a great fear had descended. Chapter 105. Pan Divine Fruit, Bloodthirsty Gadflies. At this moment, everyone looking at the valley involuntarily narrowed their eyes, their hair standing on end as if a great terror had descended before them. Luo Qingshan and Huaxun, who were by Xingchen's side, also instinctively clutched his hands, as if only by his side could they feel safe. At this moment, everyone stared with wide eyes into the valley. The valley, which had originally been covered by the azure abyss poison miasma, was now filled with a faint black mist. Chillingly cold winds, carrying a rich fruity fragrance, blew from the valley. Within the cold winds, there seemed to be the wailing of ghosts and gods, as if welcoming some terrifying arrival. What made everyone's eyes narrow and their hair stand on end was the scene before them. Inside the valley were countless white skeletons, stretching as far as the eye could see. The entire valley was covered in bones, exuding an endless strangeness. It made everyone feel as if they had arrived at a burial ground in hell, eerie and terrifying. And in the deepest part of the valley, divine lights flickered. On several ancient trees, emitting a crystalline glow, dozens of pink fruits grew. The rich, fruity fragrance emanated from these pink fruits. Umapa. It's actually the pan, Tao divine fruit. A kind and shocked voice rang out. It was Master Buchi of the Buddhist sect. At this moment, he had his hands pressed together, looking excitedly at the pan, Tao divine fruit emanating a rich fragrance deep within the valley. Upon hearing Master Buchi's words, the faces of the various factions changed drastically. They looked at the pan, Tao divine fruit deep in the valley, their eyes filled with greed. The pan, Tao divine fruit. This was the supreme divine fruit of the ancient divine court, destroyed during the immortal demon war. Since then, the pan, Tao divine fruit had almost vanished from the entire divine wilderness continent. Who would have thought that several trees would be growing here in Avicii hell? This pan, Tao divine fruit requires 30,000 years to bloom, 30,000 years to bear fruit, and 30,000 years to ripen, experiencing the extreme number of 9 before it is finally mature. Once mature, its fragrance is rich. Consuming it allows those below the immortal emperor realm to break through a major realm. It contains rich heavenly Tao essence, and taking it can enhance one's comprehension of the heavenly Tao law. At this moment, all the factions had greed in their eyes. It was false to say they weren't tempted by such a divine object. Everyone seemed to have forgotten the immense fear they felt just now, looking at the pan, Tao divine fruit with burning eagerness. Seeing the disappeared abyss poison miasma, a young disciple finally couldn't resist the temptation. He flew rapidly towards the depths of the valley, even holding his breath to ensure nothing went wrong. However, after flying less than tens of meters, this disciple screamed and fell from the air, waving his hands continuously and letting out a tragic cry. Then, the sound abruptly stopped, and his entire body, at a visible speed, turned into a blood-stained skeleton. This astonishing change made the greed in everyone's eyes vanish, and they instantly calmed down. Even if the fragrance in the air was rich at this moment, no one dared to take another step forward. At this moment, looking at the blood-stained skeleton, everyone finally understood how the burial ground before them came to be. Xingchen's attention, however, was not on the skeletons, but rather on the faint black mist, which he observed with interest, saying, "Interesting, truly interesting." Hearing Xingchen's words, everyone turned to look at him. Su Longxiao even directly asked, "Emperor Yi, have you discovered something?" Hearing Su Longxiao's question, Xingchen pointed forward and said, "Don't you find the black mist in the valley very strange?" Upon hearing Xingchen's words, everyone turned their gaze towards the black mist. One look and it was enough. Everyone couldn't help but retreat several steps, their faces filled with fear. That seemingly faint black mist was not mist at all, but countless tiny black flying insects. Even with a careful look, it was extremely difficult to detect them, as they were simply too small. And the wailing of ghosts and gods was the sound produced by these black flying insects flapping their wings. Looking at the dense black flying insects, countless people involuntarily retreated. Fortunately, these black flying insects seemed to have a territorial awareness, only flying within the valley and not leaving its confines. From a distance, they looked like a faint black mist pervading the valley, and that disciple's body, which disappeared at a visible speed, must have been the work of these dense black flying insects. Upon realizing this, Su Linger couldn't help but hide behind Su Longxiao, her face filled with horror. Patting Su Linger's back, Su Longxiao looked at Xingchen, always feeling that this demon clan emperor would surely have a way to solve the problem. And so he asked. This emperor observes Emperor Ye's relaxed expression. "It seems you already know what these black flying insects are and have a solution." Hearing Su Longxiao's words, everyone looked at Xingchen again. This demon clan emperor was indeed extraordinary. Not only did he solve the problem of crossing the Yellow Springs water, but could he now also solve the current predicament? Hearing Su Longxiao's inquiry, the purple gold color deep in Xingchen's eyes disappeared. After a message came to his mind, he calmly said, "These black insects are bloodthirsty gadflies, extremely poisonous creatures and a gregarious species. They have extremely strong territorial awareness and love to live in places with poison miasma. Because of their immense numbers and extreme bloodlust, even an immortal emperor would avoid them, or else suffer a bitter end. Fortunately, the bloodthirsty gadflies have extremely strong territorial awareness. As long as we don't step into the valley, they won't attack. Hearing Xingchen's words, everyone breathed a slight sigh of relief, but then frowned slightly. If they didn't pass through the valley, how would they leave Avicii hell? Were they really going to be trapped here? Does Emperor Yi have a solution? Hearing Xingchen's words, Su Longxiao directly asked. Looking at Su Longxiao with a smile, Xingchen said, "Old man Su, are you trying to freeload again? Doesn't the Qin family have those medicinal pills? And they're free. Why don't you take one and go into the valley to see?" Upon hearing Xingchen's words, the members of the Qin family looked at Xingchen with anger. This person was simply bringing up old grievances. And the other factions, hearing Xingchen's words, also twitched their mouths. This Xingchen simply didn't put the Qin family in his eyes at all, offending them to death. Such a person should be avoided in the future. But Su Longxiao's eyes lit up when he heard Xingchen's words, and he asked, "From Emperor Ye's words, it sounds like there are medicinal pills that aren't free, but can be taken?" Xingchen glanced at Su Longxiao, then smiled slightly and said, "Old man Su, your mind is indeed sharp. Actually, the abyss poison miasma in this valley didn't disappear. It only seemed to be because of the appearance of the bloodthirsty gadflies. This emperor speculates that the appearance of these bloodthirsty gadflies is due to time. After a certain period, they will automatically disappear." No sooner had Xingchen's voice fallen than an excited voice rang out. "Look quickly, don't you feel a faint azure color appearing? So many of the black bloodthirsty gadflies have disappeared." Hearing this voice, everyone turned to look at the valley. Sure enough, in the next moment, the azure abyss poison miasma reappeared, and the black bloodthirsty gadflies completely vanished. Seeing this, Xingchen's lips curled into a slight smile. He spoke to the Yao race and Myriad Flowers Divine Palace disciples, saying, "Time's almost up. Let's quickly pass through this valley. Bring out the dragon, saliva grass, and rainbow night flowers you collected. Your chance to earn spirit stones has arrived." Hearing Xingchen's words, the Yao race disciples and Myriad Flowers Divine Palace disciples all excitedly brought out the dragon saliva grass and rainbow night flowers they had collected. The various factions looked at the colorful flowers and plants these disciples took out and suddenly remembered. Weren't these the flowers and plants from the colorful sea of flowers when they first entered Avicii Hell? Could these flowers and plants detoxify the abyss poison miasma? The next moment, Xingchen smiled faintly, and the words he spoke softly made the various factions furious, yet helpless. Chapter 106. Crossing the Poisonous Miasma, the True Treasure Hidden Land. At this moment, everyone looked at Xingchen, who was smiling, their faces filled with anger. Su Linger, in particular, looked at Xingchen with contempt and spoke bitterly. Money grubber." Xingchen acted as if he hadn't heard anything and spoke to the major forces. 10 million top-grade spirit stones can calm your chi and focus your minds. As long as you hold your breath, you can successfully pass through the valley, and you might even obtain the Pan Tao divine fruit deep inside the valley. As long as you are not greedy, passing through the valley will definitely be no problem. What a profitable deal. Hearing Xingchen's words, the various forces frowned slightly. 10 million top-grade spirit stones was a drop in the bucket for them, but whether it was effective or not was the most important thing. Countless forces couldn't help but speak up. "We don't care about 10 million top-grade spirit stones, but who knows if it really works? If we end up being completely wiped out like Lingshu Hall, that would be too unjust. This is practically gambling with our lives." "Exactly. Let the Yao race people use it first, and then we'll buy it. Otherwise, becoming someone else's pathfinders and losing our lives would be too unfair." "That's right. Let the Yao race people try it first. Otherwise, who knows if it's useful? We shouldn't be as foolish as Lingshu Hall, becoming subjects for others' experiments, only to be completely wiped out in the end." At this moment, hearing the discussions of the surrounding forces, Xingchen raised his hand slightly and said, 1,000 top-grade spirit stones. Whether you believe it or not is your business. This emperor has neither the need nor the obligation to explain it to you. Whether you want it or not, the choice is yours. Likewise, whether this emperor sells it or not is also in this emperor's hands. This emperor is not forcing you to buy or not buy. Hearing Xingchen's words, all the forces immediately fell silent. Suddenly, Su Longxiao spoke up. "This emperor trusts Emperor Yi. This storage ring contains 10 million top-grade spirit stones." Looking at the storage ring in his hand, Xingchen immediately split the dragon saliva grass and the rainbow night flower held by Xingchen Guiyao into two and handed them to Su Longxiao, then handed the storage ring containing 10 million top-grade spirit stones to Xingchen Guiyao. Xingchen Guiyao stared blankly at the storage ring in her hand, with Su Longxiao taking the lead. In a short while, all forces except Purple Firmament Palace had purchased the dragon saliva grass and rainbow night flower, while the faces of the Yao race and Myriad Flowers Divine Palace disciples were filled with excitement. Unlike the Yao race and others, the disciples of the other forces were all nervous. The major forces did not take action, but waited for Xingchen and his group. Xingchen, seemingly having noticed the thoughts of these forces, did not care. Looking at Cloud Peace Spirit, the elder of Purple Firmament Palace, who was slightly frowning, Xingchen smiled slightly and said, "Elder Yun, here are 11 pure spirit pills. Give them to the disciples of Purple Firmament Palace to consume later." After Xingchen finished speaking, without waiting for Cloud Peace Spirit to reply, he turned around and waved his hand. A pure spirit pill appeared in front of every person of the Yao race and Myriad Flowers Divine Palace. Xingchen took one out, tossed it into his mouth, and said to the Yao race and Myriad Flowers Divine Palace people, "Consume it, hold your breath, and follow this emperor through the valley to retrieve the Pan, Tao, Divine Fruit." Hearing Xingchen's words, the people of the Yao race and Myriad Flowers Divine Palace did not hesitate, immediately took out the pure spirit pills and consumed them. Cloud Peace Spirit frowned slightly, seeing that all the Yao race people, and even Luo Qingshan and Hua Shuyan, had consumed the pure spirit pills. Although she was confused, she took the lead and instructed all Purple Firmament Palace disciples to consume the pure spirit pills. Seeing this scene, Su Longxiao frowned slightly and asked, "Emperor Yi, this is—" Hearing Su Longxiao's words, Xingchen smiled slightly and said, "Don't worry, old man Su. The dragon saliva grass and rainbow night flower ensure you cross the valley without any problem. However, to ensure the absolute safety of the Yao race disciples, this emperor wanted them to consume the more effective pure spirit pills. As for Purple Firmament Palace, this emperor finds them pleasing to the eye, so I gave them some too." After Xingchen finished speaking, without giving Su Longxiao a chance to talk, he waved his hand and declared, "Let's go, follow this emperor to pick the Pan, Tao, Divine Fruit." As soon as the words fell, Xingchen flashed and immediately entered the valley. The other people from the Yao race and Myriad Flowers Divine Palace also entered without hesitation. Cloud Peace Spirit saw this and likewise commanded, "Go." She also led her disciples, rushing toward the depths of the valley. The people of the other forces saw that everyone who entered the abyss poisonous miasma was fine, and they couldn't help but look toward the direction of the Qin family, their eyes full of scorn. Su Longxiao looked at the direction where Xingchen and the others had disappeared, and immediately said to Su Linger, "Hold your breath, Grandpa will take you across." After speaking, he also took Su Linger and entered the abyss poisonous miasma. With the Su family taking the lead, other major forces like the Sword Sect, Blade Pavilion, 10,000 Beast Valley, and Shinji Mountain also entered simultaneously. At this time, Xingchen and the others had arrived at the Pan Tao Divine Tree, which emitted a crystalline glow. The Yao race disciples and Myriad Flowers Divine Palace disciples waved their hands, but found they could not collect the Pan Tao Immortal Fruit. However, those who reached out to pluck them could easily pick them off, which surprised them slightly. But since the area was extremely dangerous, they dared not ponder too much and immediately began frantically picking. The people of Purple Firmament Palace also arrived and began picking the Pan Tao Divine Fruit. Su Longxiao and Su Linger, along with forces like the Sword Sect and Blade Pavilion, also arrived one after another, harvesting several Pan Tao Immortal Fruits. In the blink of an eye, nearly 1,000 Pan Tao Divine Fruits were picked clean by the major forces. Xingchen waved his hand, leading the Yao race and Myriad Flowers Divine Palace people toward the deeper parts of the valley. A moment later, they finally walked out of the valley. The blue abyss poisonous miasma completely vanished, and everyone let out a long breath. However, the scene that greeted their eyes in the next moment shocked everyone, leaving them standing dumbfounded in place. Even Xingchen was slightly surprised. The treasure hidden land from the ancient treasure map in his mind was right before his eyes. The major forces behind them also arrived one after another, their faces filled with joy, seemingly having gained some harvest. However, when they saw the scene before them, they too trembled all over and stood there stunned. Suddenly, dozens of miserable screams came from behind. The screams were so tragic that they brought everyone back to their senses, causing them to turn and look behind them. Master Buchi of the Buddhist sect put his palms together and chanted loudly, "Umipa." The The people of the other forces looked at the scene behind them, their eyes intentionally or unintentionally glancing toward the direction of the Qin family, their faces full of mockery. It turned out that inside the valley, several Pan Tao divine trees had been uprooted. Those Qin family disciples, fighting over the ownership of the Pan Tao divine trees, had resorted to violence. They had actually forgotten where they were and delayed their departure. In the end, the bloodthirsty gadflies appeared and consumed dozens of Qin family disciples. Those screams came from the Qin family disciples. At this moment, Qin Muji looked at Qin Haoyan. His face flushed red, but saw Qin Haoyan's gaze was shifty. He instantly understood, glared fiercely at Qin Haoyan, and then calmly stated, "Those who harbor greed deserve to die." As soon as he finished speaking, he stopped looking at the dozens of fresh, white skeletons and turned to look ahead. Meanwhile, in a corner unnoticed by the crowd, Huangfu Bubi's lips curled slightly. He looked toward the direction of the Qin family and Xingchen, his eyes flashing with a strange light. The evil intent deep within his eyes grew even thicker. Chapter 107. The Ancient Steel and the Ancient Divine Court? At this moment, no one spared another glance at the valley behind them. Every face was frozen in awe before a colossal palace. The entire structure blazed with golden light, dazzling beyond compare. Thick pillars carved with every auspicious beast shot skyward, propping up the vast golden hall so that it loomed like a deity surveying the mortal world, exuding supreme majesty. Gazing at the resplendent palace, that same majestic presence washed over them, stirring shock in every heart and an involuntary thought. Could this be a dwelling of gods? What else could possess such awe-inspiring might? As they drew closer, they saw, before the palace, an ancient steel rearing dozens of zhang into the air. Yet beside the golden hall, it resembled a stream beside the ocean, showing just how immense the palace truly was. At its summit, golden characters glittered, wrapped in Tao rhythms. Only a supreme expert could have left such dense resonance upon them. A voice rang out, slowly reading the golden inscription. "Those who cross the sea of flowers without perishing shall behold the undying tree of the Yellow Springs. Those who brave the Yellow Springs without fading may enter the Poison Valley to claim the divine relic. Those who survive the Poison Valley will shatter perception and stand before God." Hearing this, every faction stared wide-eyed at the glowing words. Stand before God? Countless cries of disbelief burst forth. Before the shock could settle, an even sharper voice shouted, "Look, there's more beneath the steel." All eyes dropped to the ancient stone beneath the golden lines. Characters indeed continued there. "I am filled with hate. I, Emperor Huangfu Tatian of Shangqing Palace, have been trapped here 1,000,000 years, yet never entered the divine hall. Every method failed. I never met a god. I hate this. My lifespan exhausted. I shall perish here. Yin Xingchen, master of unrivaled isle. Buddhist monk Wuji dies here. Ho Guanjuan, lord of the war god sect, ends his path here. Hate, hate, hate." Further lines record the deaths of other mighty ones who once entered a Vichy hell. Reading those inscriptions, every faction lost its composure and broke into uproar. "Look, that's Yin Xingchen, the peerless prodigy who swept every power 1,000 years ago. He actually died here. And that's Huangfu Tatian, the old ancestor of Shangqing Palace, the only one to ever break through to 9th rank alchemist 1,000,000 years ago. He too fell here." At this sight, disciples of Shangqing Palace knelt before the steel, and even Huangfu Bubi, eyes flickering with dark light, slowly knelt. Buddhist monks chanted in unison, bowing in reverence toward the ancient stone. Every faction talked and shouted, growing more alarmed the more they read. Xingchen studied the steel, then said to those behind him, "Come, let's see what history lies within the golden palace that trapped so many mighty ones." At his words, Luo Qingshan, Huaxun, and the others collected themselves and followed him toward the palace. The other powers likewise set out, none willing to share the fate of those ancient experts. Only upon reaching the entrance did they grasp the structure's true, mind-boggling scale. Standing before it, they felt like ants before an ancient god, overwhelmed by their own insignificance. "The ancient divine court," the cry came from Su Longshao, the great emperor who headed the Su family. "The ancient divine court. Impossible. How could it possibly be here?" Su Longshao seemed possessed, shouting wildly while every cultivator trembled, faces pale, as though some terrifying truth had shattered their understanding. Above the palace's lofty gate, a golden plaque shimmered, each stroke of the words "Ancient Divine Court," wrapped in immortal radiance and Tao rhythms, radiating boundless might and supreme authority. At this moment, even Luo Qingshan and Hua Xian beside Yi Xingchen instinctively moved closer, one on each side, subconsciously gripping his hands tightly. Seeing the two women's reaction, Xingchen frowned slightly. Anything that could rattle these normally unflappable women meant this palace had an extraordinary origin. Luo Qingshan noticed her husband's slight frown and explained. Husband, the ancient divine court was once the realm of the primordial gods, meant to stand high in the 9 heavens. Yet now it appears inside of Vichy hell. Anyone would be shocked. Hua Shuyan, cheeks flushed, felt Xingchen's warm, powerful hand and added softly. Big sister's right. During the ancient war of immortals and demons, what exactly happened to make the divine court fall? Did all the gods perish, or... By now Su Longshao had calmed down. Hearing Hua Xuan's words, he frowned, drew a deep breath, and spoke. No, look, this palace is grand and imposing, but it is not the true ancient divine court. The real court is something a small world could never withstand. Its supreme pressure would have shattered this place long ago. His words snapped everyone back to reality. Of course, if this were the real ancient divine court, those deceased experts would surely have left records on the ancient steels. The absence of any such information proved this court was a fake. Realizing this, the crowd gasped in unison. Who could be so audacious as to erect a false ancient divine court here? Yet one thing was certain. Whoever built this replica had to be a primordial god. Otherwise, they could never endure the karma involved. At that thought, divine light flashed in everyone's eyes. A god had expended vast effort, braving immense karma. Imagine the terrifying treasures inside. A primordial god's treasure trove would drive anyone mad with desire. Xingchen nodded to himself. No wonder the ancient treasure map's hiding place had manifested here. They soon stood before a colossal gate. No one recognized its material. Though mottled and color-faded, it still exuded a mysterious power. Below the gate, blades, spears, halberds, and other divine sharp weapons lay scattered, long since stripped of their divinity by the passage of time. Across the gate stretched countless intersecting scars, punch and palm prints, sword and saber marks, clearly etched. Seeing this, everyone understood. These were left by experts, immortal emperor realm powerhouses, some wielding divine weapons, who had failed to break the gate and died in despair. The palace had only this single entrance. The frenzy in their eyes faded, replaced by deep frustration. Suddenly a tremendous boom rang out. An immortal emperor from Xiantian sect punched the gate. Violent chi swept the area, forcing many to retreat. Thick dust obscured all vision. When the dust settled, the gate still stood, marked only by a faint fist print, utterly unscathed. Disbelieving, many attacked, even an Emperor Realm expert, leaving a deep gouge, yet still no real damage. Shock gripped the crowd. Everyone frowned. After roughly an incensed time, everyone except Xingchen had struck, including Luo Qingshan and Hua Shuyan. Yet the result was the same. The gate now bore dozens more scars of varying depth, yet remained unmoved, standing firm. Their frustration turned to awe. They finally understood why those experts had died with such regret. This gate was like an immovable, primordial divine mountain, shattering every hope of entry. Faces paled, yet at that moment, purple gold light flickered in Xingchen's eyes. He blinked, disbelieving, and the corner of his mouth curved upward. Chapter 108. The God-slaying spear, a divine artifact, and the way in. At this very moment, just as Xingchen's lips curved in a faint, distracted smile, suddenly, a terrifying aura exploded forth. Su Longshao flicked his wrist, and a long spear wreathed in overwhelming might appeared in his grasp. Ancient Tao rhythms swirled about the weapon. Chains of order were etched into its body, each link seeming to contain world-destroying energy. The hidden world forces couldn't help crying out in shock. The Su family's sect-protecting divine artifact, the God-slaying spear. At this instant, Su Longshao released his full, terrifying aura. His great Emperor realm cultivation surged forth without the slightest concealment. Everyone felt a dreadful pressure. Even immortal Emperor experts involuntarily retreated 100 meters with their sects before they could withstand this fearsome imperial might, let alone ordinary disciples. Even those mighty immortal emperors felt incapable of resisting a great emperor. The great Emperor realm truly lived up to its reputation as the foundation of every major power. Now, Su Longshao gripping the God-slaying spear, an indescribable majesty and oppression spread out. Even 100 meters away, hearts quailed. Staring at the huge gate, flames flashed in Su Longshao's eyes. Without hesitation, he swept the spear and smashed it toward the gate. The momentum was earth-shaking, surging forward without equal. The next instant, a titanic boom shook the palace. Dust billowed, the entire hall lurched, and the colossal energy formed a violent storm that swept in every direction, forcing every power to retreat. Moments later the storm died and the dust settled. The various forces hurriedly looked toward the gate. Yet a scene that stunned them all appeared. Su Longshao now stood before the gate, the god-slaying spear already stowed away, his brows knitted tight as he stared at it, his face utterly grave. The major powers stared wide-eyed, disbelief written across their faces. On the gate, a deep black scar remained, clearly left by the spear, but it had done little real damage. The gate still stood firm. No wonder the forces were incredulous. The master of the Su family, a great emperor wielding the sect-protecting god-slaying spear, had left only a deep gouge. Seeing the unease, tension, and fear in the disciples of the Yao race and Myriad Flowers' divine palace, Xingchen smiled faintly and said, "This gate is surely the palace's final line of defense. It can't be broken by brute force. Anyone who can place so many rare treasures in a small world. His strength, I'm sure, you already suspect. A portal forged by such a figure. How can we break it? We simply haven't found the right method yet." At this point, Xingchen nearly laughed. He already knew the ridiculously simple way into this divine court, thanks to the illusion-breaking divine eye. But the Yao race and Myriad Flowers' divine palace disciples were too drained. They needed rest, so he kept quiet for now. Hearing him, the powers finally came back to their senses. Xingchen continued, "We've been inside for several hours. Everyone's stamina is spent. Even if you can hold on, your disciples can't. Their minds are exhausted. If any of you insist, this emperor won't stop you, but the Yao race and Myriad Flowers' divine palace disciples will rest properly." After speaking, Xingchen led them to a platform near the gate, waved his hand, and a green divine light sank into the ground. Instantly, a huge pavilion rose, the ancient divine vine. He ushered everyone inside, then addressed the Purple Firmament Palace Elder Cloud Peace Spirit. "Yin Elder, bring the Purple Firmament Palace disciples into rest for the night. Tomorrow we may enter this divine court." Cloud Peace Spirit had meant to refuse, but seeing the surroundings, she still led her disciples into the vast, luxurious pavilion formed by the ancient divine vine. Countless rooms filled the pavilion, enough for all. Seeing worry, fear, and helplessness on their faces, Xingchen knew they wouldn't sleep unless reassured. So he smiled and said aloud, "Rest well. This emperor already knows how to enter the divine court, but you're all too depleted. Without proper rest, you couldn't face any danger inside tomorrow. That's why I haven't opened the gate, so you can recover. Now that you know, go and rest. Here are some high-grade divine stones to speed your recovery. Take them back to your rooms." With a wave of his hand, 10 divine stones brimming with immortal spiritual chi appeared before each person, including the Purple Firmament Palace disciples. Hearing this, everyone's eyes widened in disbelief at the immortal spiritual chi-rich stones before them. However, the members of the Yao race and the disciples of the Myriad Flowers' divine palace simply pocketed the divine stones, their faces relaxed as they returned to their rooms. They had long since witnessed Xingchen's mystery and might. Any difficulty seemed to melt to nothing before him. Yet the disciples of the Purple Firmament Palace were stunned. The Demon Clan Emperor had found a way to open the Divine Court's gate in so short a time. Keep in mind that many top experts had failed to move this colossal door. Numerous peerless prodigies had met their end here, left with no choice but to pass away in meditation. Among them were immortal emperors and even great emperor realm powerhouses who could not break through. The countless divinity-lost weapons beneath the gate were proof enough. The master of the reclusive Su family, Su Longshao, had even produced his sex-suppressing divine artifact, the god-slaying spear. That stunning thrust could almost pierce the 9 heavens, yet it had only made the divine palace tremble and left a single gouge. Now the Demon Clan Emperor claimed he had long known the method. How could they not be shocked? And the high-grade divine stones before them were something even their hidden world forces possessed only in small quantities. Yet the Demon Clan Emperor gave them freely, and when they had crossed the toxic miasma valley, Xingchen had also provided spirit-cleansing pills. All this left Cloud Peace Spirit deeply uneasy. She could not help but voice her doubts. "Emperor Yi, this emperor truly cannot understand why the Purple Firmament Palace is treated so differently. If it is for that matter, absolutely not. Even if..." Cloud Peace Spirit's unspoken worry was crystal clear to Xingchen. Noting the disciples' reactions, he sighed inwardly, rejoicing for that magnificent woman. Recalling her flawless figure, he smiled and cut in. "Yin Elder, rest assured, this emperor has no ulterior motive. I am merely old acquaintances with your palace master Xiaoyajun. Take this undying divine tree flower and these 10 tao divine fruits back to her. She will understand." Hearing this, Cloud Peace Spirit's heart shook. Gazing at the priceless, undying divine tree flower and the tin-pan Tao divine fruits, she was astounded. These were treasures that could drive countless powers mad, yet Xingchen produced them effortlessly. Such precious divine items, given away without the slightest hesitation. Seeing the earnestness in Xingchen's eyes, Cloud Peace Spirit knew the Demon Clan Emperor was not deceiving her. She inclined her head slightly, then carefully stored those maddeningly coveted treasures and led the Purple Firmament Palace disciples back to their rooms. Meanwhile, Luo Qingshan was whispering something into Hua Shuyan's ear with a teasing smile, leaving Hua Shuyan bashful. Her stolen glances at Xingchen brimmed with tenderness. After sneaking a look, Hua Shuyan turned to leave, but Xingchen called her back. With a casual wave, 100,000 high-grade divine stones appeared before her. Stepping close, he regarded her blushing face and said gently, "Take these divine stones and recover well. Tomorrow you'll need your full strength for any sudden turn of events." Hua Xian gave a soft lifted her eyes to him, then gathered the stones and almost fled back to her room. Watching her scurry away, Xingchen smiled, returned to the room with Luo Qingshan, and finally burst into loud laughter. Seeing her husband so delighted, Luo Qingshan laughed along and asked softly, "Husband, what makes you so happy? Tell Shaner, so I can share your joy." When she asked, Xingchen stopped laughing, leaned to her ear, and whispered something with a grin. Luo Qingshan's face flushed scarlet. Eyes wide, she stared at him and stammered, "Husband, are you serious? This is one huge misunderstanding." Seeing him nod solemnly, Luo Qingshan finally couldn't hold back a laugh. The couple locked eyes and broke into unrestrained mirth. At that moment, disciples of the great powers gazing at the pavilion where Xingchen and the others resided were filled with envy. Qin Haotian and Qin Muji, eyeing the length of green vine Xingchen had produced again, beamed as though the divine item were already theirs. Recalling Xingchen's words, however, they could only find suitable spots, sit cross-legged, and close their eyes to meditate. Yet none could calm their hearts. After all, the messages left by the fallen experts on the ancient steel and Su Longxiao's terrifying spear thrust had still failed to open the gate. Everyone began to wonder and dread. Would they, too, end up sitting here until their life force faded, like those past powerhouses? At that thought, how could anyone rest easy? Inside the pavilion, Xingchen looked at Luo Qingshan, exhausted from the intense focus demanded by Vici Hell, now fast asleep in his arms. Smiling, he finally spoke silently to the system. "System, begin today's check-in." Chapter 109. Hunyuan Town Demon Stone, Qin Haotian's Heart Demon. At this moment, Xingchen spoke to the system. "System, start today's check-in." The moment the words left his mouth, the system's melodious voice rang beside his ear. "Ding! Check-in in progress. Check-in successful. Congratulations, host, on receiving the reward, 1 million high-grade divine stones. They have been deposited into your system space." "Ding! Check-in in progress. Check-in successful. Congratulations, host, on receiving the reward, 1 million bottles of supreme divine wine. They have been deposited into your system space." "Ding! Check-in in progress. Check-in successful. Congratulations, host, on receiving the reward, Hunyuan Town Demon Stone. Born from primal chaos, forged by a supreme being with ultimate yang fire tempered and 9 heaven divine lightning hammered. The Hunyuan Town Demon Stone annihilates all evil and suppresses the source of 10,000 demons. Only the host may wield it. To any demon, regardless of cultivation or numbers, it is the bane of their existence. Hearing the system's sweet cascade of notifications, Xingchen's lips curved. He paid little heed to the high-grade divine stones or the supreme divine wine, especially the latter. His system space was already overflowing with it. Even if every member of the Yao race drank a bottle a day, the stock would last years. He wondered how Yuan Long and Qin Feng's Tianxia Tower was doing. He could send some over when he got the chance, certain it would make Tianxia Tower renowned throughout the divine wilderness. Looking again at the Hunyuan Town Demon Stone in his system space, Xingchen was delighted. This was a treasure, the nemesis of all demonkind, capable of obliterating every demonic origin. And only he could use it, no matter how powerful or numerous the demons. Once the stone was unleashed, it would suppress them all. A perfect ace against the demon race. With that thought, Xingchen smiled gently, gazing at Luo Qingshan asleep in his arms, his eyes full of tender affection. Early next morning, a deafening roar from outside woke the pair. They stepped outside to find everyone roused. With a casual wave, Xingchen moved the crowd onto a platform. The ancient divine vine turned into a streak of green light and slipped into his palm, stored away. Boom, boom, boom. The explosions kept coming. Turning, they saw several forces had lost patience and were bombarding the huge gate. Judging by their panting, they'd been at a long while. Approaching the gate, Xingchen's group caught the surrounding chatter. Do you think the hidden Qin family's saint's idea will work? It's been ages. Seems useless. Exactly. Those powerful clans aren't lifting a finger. They're making us do the work. Can't say that. The Qin saint's reasoning holds. Keep hitting and the gate might break. It's the only option left. Disciples of the various factions argued back and forth. Spotting Xingchen's arrival, Qin Haoyan snorted. Xingchen, your Yao race and Myriad Flowers Divine Palace must help blast this gate. You want to get inside too? Or we're all stuck here. He glanced toward Purple Firmament Palace, opened his mouth, but in the end said nothing. Hearing him, Xingchen shot him a look of pure disdain. This emperor does as he pleases. Who are you to instruct me? Too stupid to find a way into the divine court. And now you want this emperor to act the fool and hammer on a gate. Qin Haoyan flushed crimson with rage. Yumph. So you claim you have a way into the divine court? At his words, everyone turned toward Xingchen. Even the forces battering the gate halted to listen. Seeing their reaction, Xingchen gave Qin Haoyan a mocking smile. This emperor does have a method. Simple, really. Want to learn? Kneel, kowtow, and take this emperor as your master. Then I'll teach you. The instant the words left his mouth, an angry roar rang out. Insolence. To make the Qin family's saint kneel. Are you disregarding the entire Qin family? An immortal emperor expert of the Qin family bellowed in fury. Oomph. This emperor has always been bold. Your Qin family? Ha! This emperor truly doesn't place it in his eyes. All the surrounding powers were stunned. The hidden world forces frowned, studying Xingchen with appraising eyes. The demon clan emperor Xingchen was no fool. On the contrary, everything he'd done proved his cunning. Since he dared speak thus, either his brain had short-circuited or he genuinely didn't fear the Qin family. The latter seemed far more likely. Hence, the hidden world cultivators regarded him with measuring stares. Qin family disciples seethed. Qin Haoyan glared as though he wished to flay Xingchen alive. A reclusive clan saint, born with supreme aptitude and backed by an immense power. Yet Xingchen humiliated him again and again. Unforgivable. He glanced at Lu Ruosu of Myriad Flowers Divine Palace. A murderous intent flickered in the depths of his eyes and vanished. Had it not been for that palace's great emperor guardian, a single palm from the Qin family's emperor could have obliterated the Yao race's so-called top force of the divine wilderness, and Xingchen would be long dead. How could he be so arrogant now? At this instant, Qin Haoyan had already condemned Myriad Flowers Divine Palace to death in his heart. Meeting Qin Haoyan's furious stare, Xingchen merely chuckled in contempt. Even if you truly wish to become this emperor's disciple, I still wouldn't accept, because you are unworthy. Ignoring Qin Haoyan's twisted, livid face, Xingchen calmly stepped before the huge gate and addressed the crowd. Actually, the way into the divine court is simple. The stone tablet gave the hint long ago. Shatter your perception, and you shall behold the divine. So many experts met their end here because they clung to fixed thinking, never breaking their own perceptions. All who came after followed suit, especially after seeing the countless scars on the gate and the divine weapons scattered beneath it, instinctively assuming they had to smash the gate open. Standing before the gate, Xingchen glanced around, then continued. But what if this gate doesn't open inward, but outward? Qin Haoyan burst into loud laughter. Xingchen, have you lost your mind? Outward? Does this gate look like it opens outward? Stop dreaming. Xingchen merely gave him a calm, expressionless look. Reaching out, he grasped the groove left by previous attacks. Under everyone's stunned gaze, he exerted slight force. Crack, crack, crack. The sound rang out. The place fell into dead silence. The massive gate that had blocked countless prodigies and mighty experts for untold epochs was so effortlessly opened by Xingchen. Faces all around were a sight to behold. Mouths agape, muscles twitching uncontrollably. Eyes drifted intentionally toward the Qin family. The scene was simply hilarious. Qin Haoyan had just finished mocking him when, the next second, Xingchen swung the gate open, slap after resounding slap across the face. Qin Haoyan's face burned crimson. He wished the earth would swallow him whole. Eyes fixed on Xingchen, he knew the demon clan emperor had become his inner demon. Xingchen had to die. As the gate swung wider, the secret hidden for countless epochs finally appeared before them. When the two doors stood fully open, an astonishing sight greeted everyone. Even Xingchen himself was taken aback, disbelief written across his face. Chapter 110. entering the divine court, the terror of the ancient beast. At this moment, as he watched the scene before him, a trace of surprise flashed across Xingchen's face. Beyond the gate that had remained hidden for several epochs was actually a black space-time passage. Every major power stared at the sight, utterly stunned. Xingchen checked the ancient treasure map within his mind. Its destination lay precisely behind this black passage. He turned and walked over to Luo Qingshan and Hua Shuyan, saying, "No one knows what lies behind this passage. Once we go in, stay extra cautious. There could be unpredictable dangers inside." Hearing Xingchen's words, Luo Qingshan and Hua Shuyan gave slight nods. Suddenly, a sinister laugh rang out. It's finally open. This emperor goes first." At that instant, the ever-low-profile Huangfu Bubi let out a wicked chuckle. Wrapped in boundless eerie qi, he transformed into a streak of flowing light and shot into the passage. The Shangqing Palace disciples behind him, seeing their palace lord enter, followed right after. With someone taking the lead, the various powers scrambled into the passage, as though afraid the treasures would be snatched away if they hesitated. Only after the major factions had entered did Xingchen speak to Luo Qingshan, Hua Shuyan, and Yun Anling of Purple Firmament Palace, who had been following behind. "Let's go. We'll also take a look at what heavenly treasures and hidden secrets this final sacred land might hold." The moment his words fell, Xingchen took the lead and stepped into the space-time passage. If any danger appeared, he could eliminate it at once. Yet the instant he entered, his vision went completely dark and an intense dizziness struck him. Fortunately, a green divine light flashed deep within his sea of consciousness, and the vertigo slowly faded. Perhaps only a few breaths later, or maybe a full hour, his feet finally touched solid ground and his eyes brightened again. Right after, Luo Qingshan, Hua Shuyan, and the others appear behind him. Only then did Xingchen turn to look ahead. A startling scene met his gaze. Wherever Xingchen looked, the ground was a strange ashen black, wisps of black qi seeping from the soil and exuding an aura of decay. The ancient divine court actually contained an entire small world, one even larger than the small world inside of Ichi Hell. Yet within this small world, Xingchen sensed an ominous presence. An intense feeling of aversion welled up inside him. Across the ash-black ground lay countless white skeletons that closely resembled the human race, though the frames were far bulkier and taller, like the bones of giants. And on the ground stood many colossal skeletons as tall as mountains, causing the nearby factions to cry out in shock. An ancient beast. There are actually skeletons of ancient beasts here. Could this be the real Avicii Hell, the demon-suppressing ground? Otherwise, how could ancient beasts exist? Only the demon race could control such terrifying, vicious beasts. Listening to those exclamations, and sensing the eerie, ash-black soil along with the revulsion rising in his heart, Xingchen was certain this was the true Avicii Hell. Beside him, Luo Qingshan frowned at the sight and said, "Husband, could a deity truly live in a place like this?" Xingchen replied with a faint smile. Perhaps this particular god simply enjoys such surroundings. At her husband's flippant remark, Luo Qingshan rolled her eyes helplessly, while Hua Shuyan cast Xingchen a charming glance and lowered her head with a soft laugh. "Let's go. They're all heading forward. Let's take a look too. For some reason, I keep feeling something ominous here. It fills me with aversion. Do you two feel as well?" Xingchen looked toward Luo Qingshan and Hua Shuyan and asked. The two women exchanged glances and shook their heads. They only sensed that the environment here was extremely evil, but not the ominous, aversive sensation he described. Suddenly, several miserable screams rang out up ahead, and the entire small world began to quake. A terrifying roar, like that of a devil king from within hell, echoed through the world. Hearing it, Xingchen frowned slightly, said, "Let's go," and sped forward. The next instant, a mountain-sized vicious beast, its body gleaming with dark luster, fixed its blood-red eyes on the crowd. From its enormous maw, red liquid dripped incessantly. A terrifying roar made every faction's disciples turn pale, their bodies trembling as a fear that came from the soul began to spread. The palace lords and elders of the great powers, staring at the terrifying killer before them, were equally grave. In the blink of an eye moments ago, several mighty experts had been buried in the maw of this colossal beast. An immortal emperor from 10,000 Beasts Valley tried to control this vicious beast, only to be swallowed whole in return. Su Longshao gazed at the beast and said in a deep voice, "Everyone, we can now be certain. This is the true Avicii Hell, the demon-suppressing ground. For some unknown reason, this ancient beast still lives. Its strength has surpassed a mortal emperor and reached the great emperor realm. If we don't join forces and bring out our clan's ultimate arts, just this old man and the Qin family's great emperor, along with Myriad Flowers Divine Palace's great emperor, will never be able to slay this ancient beast. Therefore I propose, all disciples fall back. Every power's immortal emperors join us and cut this creature down together. Otherwise, in single combat, no one can match this beast. Even if an immortal emperor can flee, what are the disciples under their care? And inside this small world, where could they possibly run? Hearing Su Longxiao's words, every faction nodded in agreement. Just then, a strange, mocking voice rang out. We're fine with that, but who knows about certain people? After all, their immortal emperors are the most numerous right now. Qin Muji, giving Yi Xingchen a pointed look, spoke in that same sarcastic tone. At Qin Muji's remark, Su Longxiao turned toward Yi Xingchen, who was frowning at the huge beast. Sweeping it with divine sense, Yi Xingchen's frown deepened. He couldn't detect Huangfu Bubi's figure anywhere. A bad premonition rose in his heart. Emperor Yi, what say you, Yao race? Do you agree with this old man's proposal? Su Longxiao asked the tightly frowning Yi Xingchen. Hearing the question, Yi Xingchen suppressed his unease, turned to Su Longxiao, and replied, This emperor agrees. Best to finish this quickly. This emperor has a bad feeling. Delay may bring disaster. The instant the words left his mouth, Yi Xingchen waved a hand, and the Yao race's immortal emperors together with those of Myriad Flowers' divine palace flashed out, surrounding the ancient beast. The next moment, every power's immortal emperors, without hesitation, unleashed their strongest attacks and blasted the beast. Sensing the threat, the ancient beast roared to the sky. Black devilish chi surged around it, and its colossal tail swept straight at the three mightiest strikes. The other immortal emperor's attacks seemed to be ignored by the beast. Boom! A deafening explosion followed by a pain-filled roar erupted. Immense energy burst out in a huge shockwave that forced countless disciples to stagger back. When the dust settled, the three great emperors stood unharmed, though clearly breathing faster. At the center, the huge beast howled in agony, thrashing violently as if in unbearable pain. The black devilish chi gradually dispersed. With a final heaven-shaking roar, its massive head drooped powerlessly. Its body ceased struggling, utterly dead. Only then did everyone exhale in relief. So many immortal emperors plus 3 great emperors had been needed to kill this ancient beast. Its might was simply staggering. Any lone great emperor encountering it would perish. One could imagine how savage the ancient war between immortals and demons had been. No wonder so many great emperors of old vanished. They had all fallen. Let's move on. Up ahead, I sense a trace of divinity. Perhaps there lies the exit, or even the dwelling of a deity. Su Longxiao addressed the crowd. At the very next instant, the entire small world shook violently. A sinister voice echoed, cold as a demon crawling from hell. He, leave? Where do you think you're going? This emperor finds this place rather nice. Why don't you all stay and become my blood food? He. Feeling the quake and hearing that eerie voice, everyone paled and turned towards source. All eyes widened in despair, their hearts plunging into an abyss. Chapter 111. A terrorizing tactic. The demon race emerges. At this moment, everyone stared at the scene before them, their hearts brimming with despair, while every Xingchen Palace disciple was visibly elated. Up ahead, several dozen ancient beasts, each exuding a terrifying might, glared with huge eyes, their bloodthirsty gazes fixed on the crowd. Leading them was an even larger beast. Its dark hide radiated an icy chill, sending out an awe-inspiring pressure that made all shudder. Atop that beast stood a man wreathed in black, devilish chi, leering at the crowd, strange crimson light flickering in his eyes. That ghastly, wailing cry, like 10,000 ghosts howling, had come from this very man. The eerie sound raised goosebumps on everyone. A cold dread ran through their bodies. When they looked closer, they discovered it was actually Huangfu Bubi, the first person to enter this place. Seeing Huangfu Bubi astride the ancient beast, Qin Muji glanced toward Yi Xingchen, stepped forward with a smug smile, and called down to Huangfu Bubi. Huangfu Bubi, do you plan to speak to this emperor from such a height? Don't forget your place. You're nothing but a dog our Qin family keeps in the divine wilderness. Get down here at once. Qin Haoyan, watching from the Qin family side, sensed something amiss in Huangfu Bubi's transformation and those words. He began to retreat and warned aloud. Second uncle, beware. Huangfu Bubi's devilish chi is overwhelming. He's likely been possessed by the demon race. Come back first. On the beast's back, Huangfu Bubi heard Qin Muji's order and, with a faint smirk, reappeared directly in front of him. Seeing Huangfu Bubi obey, Qin Muji couldn't help but grin triumphantly. Although puzzled by Huang Fu Bubi's transformation, he turned to Qin Haoyan and said, Haoyan, relax. Huang Fu Bubi came down obediently. We've raised him for years. Would he dare strike his master? Don't worry. Suddenly Qin Muji's eyes bulged. He spat blood, disbelief written on his face as he looked down to find a black hand piercing through his chest. He slowly turned to see Huang Fu Bubi behind him, black demonic runes now covering his cheeks, smiling wickedly as if at a clown. A terrifying voice rang out. This emperor is exalted, worshipped by myriad races. Yet you, a mere ant, dared command me. Perish. As the words fell, Qin Muji screamed. His body withered into a desiccated corpse in the blink of an eye, all his essence absorbed by Huang Fu Bubi. He hadn't even had a chance to resist. Huang Fu Bubi slowly swayed his head, savoring the moment, and sighed. Delicious. It's been so long since this emperor tasted such rich blood food. Huh. Absolutely wonderful. Witnessing this, the major powers recoiled in shock. The Qin family's immortal emperor experts were stunned. Qin Muji was the second master of the clan. In fury, they struck with their strongest moves, aiming to obliterate Huang Fu Bubi on the spot. A Qin family great emperor also flashed to Qin Haoyan's side. The holy son of the Qin family must be protected at all costs. Facing the onslaught, Huang Fu Bubi merely sneered. A black, giant claw materialized behind him and swept toward the incoming strikes. A soft bang resounded. The combined assault of several Qin immortal emperors was shattered by the claw, which kept coming and grabbed the experts themselves. The next instant, terrified screams rang out. The claw lightly clenched, blood sprayed from their mouths, their faces filled with horror. Before they could fight back, those immortal emperors, like Qin Muji, had their life essence drained in moments, reduced to dry husks. Huang Fu Bubi, meanwhile, wore an expression of delight. His eyes glowed crimson as he let out a chilling laugh. Heh, all of you are my blood food. How many years has it been since I tasted such a feast? Everyone who saw this, even the Xingchen Palace disciples, stared at Huang Fu Bubi in utter dread. Quick, let's join forces and slay this demon. Huang Fu Bubi has clearly been fully possessed. He's devouring life essence to recover his strength. If he fully recovers, every one of us will become his food. Su Longshao, worthy of being master of a hidden family, shouted the instant he saw what was happening. Hearing him, all the experts came to their senses. Huang Fu Bubi merely chuckled. Haha, you remember now. It's too late. With that he moved aside, waved his hand, and let out a strange cry. At the sound, the leading ancient beast and several others behind it pounced. Disciples of many sects were swallowed whole, casualties mounting fast. Suddenly golden light blazed. Buddhist experts pressed their palms together, chanting the Buddha's name. Behind them, huge golden avatars appeared, solemn and radiant. The golden glow struck the ancient beasts, making them howl in agony as their bodies hissed and smoked. Their huge forms looked scalded by molten rock, black smoke rising everywhere. Seizing the chance, everyone unleashed their strongest attacks on the beasts without delay. Huang Fu Bubi simply stood by, smiling wickedly as he watched the beasts being surrounded and slain. When the last beast fell, many powers had suffered heavy losses. The dark ground was stained crimson. The Yao race, Myriad Flowers Divine Palace, and Purple Firmament Palace disciples were unharmed, protected by a barrier Xingchen had raised. Fortunately, aside from a few injuries, none of the Yao immortal emperors had died. They had already taken healing medicinal pills and were recovering. Now every gaze toward Huang Fu Bubi burned with murderous intent. Sensing it, he sneered and said, Not bad. Although I've only recovered to the great emperor realm, with all this blood, I can break the barrier and let my demon race set foot in the divine wilderness. All of you will become our food. Once the entire divine wilderness is under our control and we find that item, my master can advance into the supreme realm. Haha. If not for that thing, why would this emperor stay in this barren backwater for so many years? A mere low-level continent. Before he could finish, a distant radiance flared. Huang Fu Bubi frowned and snorted. Dead for eons, yet a wisp of your divine aura still tries to stop our demon race. Wishful thinking. With that final remark, he swept a glance over the crowd and vanished. Xingchen brightened at his words, staring after the vanished figure, eyes shining as he murmured. Low-level continent? Could there be higher ones? Chapter 112, Golden Lotus Platform, Godly Skeleton. At this moment, the experts from the many hidden world forces exchanged glances, acting as if they hadn't heard Xingchen's words, and looked toward the distant place where brilliant light erupted. Su Longshao frowned deeply, watching Huang Fu Bubi's vanishing figure. and spoke aloud. Let's go take a look as well. Maybe that place holds an exit out of here. With that, Su Longxiao glanced at Yi Xingchen, grabbed Su Linger's hand, and shot toward the dazzling light at top speed. The other factions followed right behind, racing toward the light. Yet their numbers were clearly far fewer. Yi Xingchen watched the direction everyone had vanished, then called to Luo Qingshan, Hua Xuan, and Cloud Peace Spirit. Come on, let's go over too. Old Su's right. There's definitely an exit there. The moment he finished, Yi Xingchen flashed away. In truth, he hadn't voiced his full thought. That blazing place was the very spot marked on the ancient treasure map. It was also the source of the intense revulsion rising in his heart, a feeling that puzzled him. He had no idea why it had surfaced. In fact, it was tied to his physique. As a great Tao chaos body, supremely young and unyielding, he possessed an instinctive sensitivity to anything fiendish. Scene shift, Huangfu Bubi arrived at the site of that blazing radiance. Above him hovered a golden lotus platform, endless divine glory sparkling, runes cascading like the nine heavens Milky Way in reverse, forming chains of order that sealed a black devilish chi-filled profound abyss below. Boundless devilish energy raged, yet could never break those golden fetters of order. Within the abyss, towering waves of devilish chi rolled, and terrifying, ghastly voices, like demonic whispers, drifted up, making scalps tingle and spines shudder. That towering devilish chi seemed sentient. At times it shaped a bewitchingly beautiful woman bowing her head in tears, so heartbreakingly lovely one yearned to free her and hold her tight. At times it gathered into a hideous, savage face with blood-red eyes that felt capable of snatching a person's very soul, daring any to meet its gaze. Watching it all, Huangfu Bubi let out a sinister laugh and roared. Ha ha ha, Tian Lingzi, this emperor hid so long in the divine wilderness, but today I've returned. I now stand before you. Why don't you strike? Come, seal me again. The instant those words fell, a soft sigh echoed. Yu Ming, you've come back after all. You know I won't fall for your taunts. Such provocation is useless. Though my divine strength is nearly spent, and I can spare no power to subdue you, only enough to keep suppressing the demon realm passage. Your current strength is too low. A mere great emperor realm cultivator cannot shatter my barrier. It seems these 10-odd million years have brought you no progress. Only regression. Back then, I mistakenly thought you perished and allowed you to slip through the demon realm passage into the divine wilderness continent. No doubt you paid a terrible price. It turned out Huangfu Bubi had long since been possessed by the Yu Ming Devil Emperor. The one standing here was Yu Ming, not Huangfu Bubi. Hearing that voice, Yu Ming snorted and said grimly, without doing so, how could I have deceived you? I abandoned my own flesh solely to hide from your sight. After entering the divine wilderness, I chanced upon this man. With my last sliver of strength, I seized his body and extinguished his soul. His aptitude was outstanding, letting me break through into the immortal emperor realm. Who could have guessed the divine wilderness would prove so barren, its resources so scarce? I thought I'd never reach this place, until the great era arrived and the divine wilderness upheaved, every peril zone and divine treasure emerging into the world. The moment of Ichi Hell opened, I knew my chance had come. I know you too well. Do you know why, though I was fully aware this place is the demon suppression site, I never approached? Without waiting for Tian Lingzi to reply, Yu Ming continued. Because I knew that if you, Tian Lingzi, dared to hide the demon seal within a treasure site, you'd have made absolutely certain of your preparations. To test my guess, I incited this man's old ancestor Huangfu Tiantian to enter, claiming there were secrets of godhood here. Sure enough, that ancestor never came back out. When a great era descended, I recognized the opportunity. Each time the great era arrives, heaven and earth change, luck-defying prodigies appear, and every danger zone leaves a sliver of hope. So I entered, expecting to be trapped outside that fake ancient divine court. I never imagined that with the advent of the great era, a truly heaven-defying figure of luck would appear, someone who actually saw through the method to enter the divine court. This emperor entered first. Ha! Even the heaven you revere is helping us, wanting the demon race to emerge. Tian Lingzi, what else do you have to say? Today, this emperor will use the blood of divine wilderness continent's people to shatter your barrier and let my demon race be born. The moment the words fell, Yu Ming struck out with a palm. Boundless devilish chi surged, turning into a sky-tall crimson-black hand that slammed toward the golden lotus platform. On that golden lotus platform sat a withered golden skeleton, its divine radiance vast and its might endless. Exactly the Tian Lingzi Yu Ming had spoken of. Even after countless eons of death, with no flesh remaining, The bones still brimmed with supreme majesty. The dignity of a god cannot be profaned. Yet the sky-tall palm, carrying the blood of divine wilderness people, was blocked by the blazing divine light the golden lotus platform released, unable to harm the golden skeleton in the slightest. Seeing this, Yu Ming frowned slightly and, refusing to believe it, slashed out several more palms in succession, all blocked by the golden lotus platform. At that moment, Tian Lingzi's voice rang out. Yu Ming, cease. Even if you, a great emperor, self-destruct, you will never break this seat's lotus platform barrier. This golden lotus is a divine treasure born alongside me. How could a mere great emperor realm cultivator shatter it? Hearing Tian Lingzi's words, Yu Ming let out an unwilling roar so terrifying it made one's hair stand on end. Impossible! Why can the blood of divine wilderness people not break the seal? Impossible! Our master would never deceive us. Just as Yu Ming roared, the various major powers arrived at this place. Seeing Yu Ming's face filled with unwillingness and hearing his roar, they all frowned slightly. But when they saw the golden lotus platform suspended mid-air, radiating endless divine light, greed flashed in every eye, especially toward the golden skeleton exuding endless divine might upon the lotus. Every major power could not help crying out in shock. Divine bones! True divine remains! Hearing their exclamations and seeing the greed in their eyes, Yu Ming, who had been furious moments ago, suddenly brightened and burst into laughter. Ha ha! Huh! This emperor is dying of laughter. Tian Lingzi, is this the human race you exhausted your divine power to protect? Now, they lust after your life-born divine treasure and your very bones. Why not let this emperor slaughter the lot of them? You know that even with my current great emperor realm cultivation, killing them would be effortless. Hearing Yu Ming's words, Tian Lingzi's voice replied, Yu Ming, your tricks are useless before this seat. No matter what you do, I will not act, giving you any chance to break the barrier and release all the demons. Compared with the countless lives of divine wilderness, though these people's lives are regrettable, they are never more important than all who dwell in divine wilderness. Upon hearing this voice, the members of the various powers looked at the golden skeleton and were instantly aghast. A god, a truly living god. At that very moment, Xingchen finally arrived here. When he saw the surging devilish chi of the profound abyss, the disgust in his heart grew even stronger. While everyone was still stunned, Yu Ming seized several experts in quick succession, sealed their cultivation, and with all his strength hurled them toward the golden lotus platform. Immediately after, he struck a terrifying palm at the lotus platform, the corners of his mouth curling in wicked delight. Bang, 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 several muffled sounds followed by miserable screams. Those experts thrown toward the golden lotus platform were instantly blocked by the golden divine light, their blood splashing across the lotus. The next moment, a long sigh echoed. It is fate, divine wilderness continent must endure this tribulation. As the words faded, Yu Ming's terrifying palm had already shot forth. The golden skeleton lifted a finger and lightly tapped. Then that incomparably fearsome palm vanished in an instant. Yet Yu Ming paid no heed. He turned to look at the profound abyss, and the moment the skeleton raised its hand, the golden runic characters suddenly dimmed. In that single instant, the several golden chains of order shattered with a boom. Seeing this, Yu Ming burst into wild laughter. This emperor knew our master would not deceive us. So to break the lotus platform barrier, living blood is required. Tian Lingzi, you calculated everything. Yet in the end you still cannot stop my demon race from being born. With the great era arriving, my demon race shall surely suppress all heavens above and become the masters of every living race. Ha, ha, ha. In the next instant, the temperature of the entire space plummeted. Incomparably terrifying devilish chi gushed out from within the profound abyss, carrying countless evil, ear-piercing howls. It instantly startled every member of the various powers. A sense of foreboding rose in their hearts, as though some great terror was about to descend. Chapter 113. The demon race emerges. Xingchen takes action. At this moment, looking at the terrifying scene before them, everyone felt a chill down their spines, and an ominous feeling rose in their hearts. The golden skeleton raised its hand and tapped repeatedly, instantly unleashing boundless divine radiance. Streaks of divine might transformed into golden runes, attempting to reseal the profound abyss. However, it was still unable to completely seal the profound abyss. Endless terrifying devilish chi continued to surge out. Seeing this scene, Yu Ming couldn't help but let out an evil laugh, his face, marked with demonic patterns, filled with excitement. Tian Lingzi, it's useless. Once the barrier is broken, you won't be able to seal my demon race again. Demon race children, Come forth and enjoy yourselves." As Yu Ming's voice echoed, more and more devilish chi surged from the profound abyss, and finally, incredibly evil voices rang out. "Finally out! Finally out!" The next moment, 4 towering figures appeared before Yu Ming. Those tall figures had black demonic patterns on their faces, and their bodies were covered in black scales, gleaming with a black divine radiance that inspired awe. The powerful aura they exuded was all at the great emperor realm. One of the men, whose mouth revealed fangs, looked at the people from the various major forces before him, took a deep breath, and spoke in an incredibly evil voice. "Hee, so delicious. It's been a long time since this emperor smelled such delicious blood food. Not bad, not bad. Especially those behind, all beautiful women with tender skin and flesh. They should taste even better." Hearing the man with fangs speak, a man with a single horn on his head looked at the disciples of Myriad Flowers' divine palace and purple firmament palace, constantly smacking his lips, his eyes full of greed. "Giggle, giggle. The young people here are also very good." This emperor feels a long-lost joy in her heart upon seeing them. At this moment, a tall female demon race member, exuding a peculiar charm, looked at the young disciples of the various forces and spoke with a smile. At this moment, seeing the figures exuding surging devilish chi, the faces of the disciples from numerous forces changed drastically, looking at the 4 terrifying figures with shock. Su Longshao and the other 3 great emperor powerhouses also looked at the 4 figures with solemn expressions. At this moment, Yu Ming laughed heartily, walked up to the demon race members, and said, "Why are you still standing there? Quickly deal with all this blood food. Tian Lingzi's divine energy is almost exhausted now. Let's work together to completely break this barrier. The energy remaining in this skeleton won't last much longer. Quickly release our demon race children to enjoy the delicious blood food of the divine wilderness." After Yu Ming finished speaking, he turned to look at the golden lotus platform, his eyes flashing with madness, as if the demon race was about to emerge at any moment. However, the next moment, to the shocked gazes of the various forces, the tall female demon race member actually pierced Yu Ming's body with a palm. With a tremor of devilish chi, Yu Ming spat out dark red blood. His eyes widened in disbelief as he turned his head to look behind him, angrily exclaiming, "Why?" However, the demon race woman gave Yu Ming no chance to speak. Devilish chi surged and trembled again. Yu Ming didn't even let out a scream, directly turning into a puddle of black liquid. This scene greatly astonished everyone from the various forces. They simply couldn't believe their eyes. The demon race actually had an internal conflict? However, the subsequent conversation among the demon race members gave everyone from the various forces a new understanding of the demon race's cold-blooded ruthlessness. A person who defiled the noble bloodline of the demon race actually dared to order this emperor around. If it weren't for your contribution to the demon race's emergence, how could this emperor let you die so easily? I would surely extract your soul, refine it for 10,000 years, subject it to millions of tortures, and finally throw it into the soul-extinguishing pool to make you understand that the demon race's bloodline cannot be defiled by inferior bloodlines. The ruthlessness of the female demon race member, who exuded a peculiar charm, and the venom in her words, sent shivers down the spines of everyone from the various forces, and cold sweat instantly drenched their clothes. Merely because Yu Ming occupied Huang Fu Bubi's body, she deemed it a defilement of the noble demon race bloodline and directly annihilated him. The demon race members were indeed cold-blooded and ruthless. And at this moment, on the golden lotus platform, Tian Lingzi's golden skeleton, whose divine radiance was growing dimmer, finally sighed helplessly. Its fate. This venerable is also powerless. As soon as his voice fell, the chains of order formed by the golden runes shattered with a roar, and the devilish chi in the profound abyss, as if unimpeded, began to surge out wildly. The sounds emanating from the black abyss grew closer and closer. The golden lotus platform was also pushed by this devilish chi towards the direction where Xingchen was. Seeing this scene, the fanged demon race man spoke up. "Our lord expended great magical power to send the 4 of us out of the seal first. Now, judging by the sound, our demon race children should also be coming through the profound abyss. I believe it won't be long before they arrive here. We should deal with this blood food first." Hearing the demon race member's words, the tall demon race member with a single horn on his head looked in the direction of the many women from Myriad Flowers' divine palace and purple firmament palace, bared his teeth in a smile, and shouted loudly, "Blood food! This emperor is here. If I'm too late, there might be nothing left for this emperor once the children come out." With that, he directly pounced towards Xingchen's direction. The remaining demon race members looked at Xingchen and the others with evil smiles. At this moment, The feeling of disgust in Yi Xingchen's heart was almost uncontrollable. Seeing more and more devilish qi soaring into the sky, he was already unusually irritable. Suddenly, seeing the demon race member with a single horn pouncing towards his direction, especially that annoying evil smile at the corner of his mouth, Yi Xingchen could no longer suppress this irritable emotion. He directly raised his hand and, with a simple slap, struck out at that demon race member. The demon race members who saw this scene all sneered, their eyes full of mockery, and finally couldn't help but burst into laughter. With a soft bang, a scream was heard. The demon race members who were just laughing heartily seemed to be frozen in place at this moment, still maintaining their previous laughing posture. However, the demon race member who had pounced towards Yi Xingchen was now shattered by Yi Xingchen's slap, leaving no corpse behind. This scene was truly astonishing. Everyone from the major forces also looked on in disbelief. That was a demon race powerhouse at the Great Emperor realm. He was actually shattered by Yi Xingchen's simple slap, which simply dropped everyone's jaws. Since when was the Demon Clan Emperor so powerful? Meanwhile, Tian Lingzi's skeleton in the Golden Lotus platform now emitted a faint divine radiance, sighing inwardly. Indeed, the heavenly Tao is just. With the Great Era's arrival, although the demon race emerges, there will surely be peerless figures who appear to save all living beings from peril and suppress all demons in the abyss. Could this child be that heaven-defying person who will suppress an era? After shattering the demon race member with a single slap, Yi Xingchen showed no pride. Looking at the devilish qi continuously surging from the profound abyss, he walked straight towards the profound abyss. Seeing this scene, the demon race members instantly snapped back to reality, roaring in anger. They all unleashed their strongest techniques, striking at Yi Xingchen, vowing to kill him with a single blow. Yi Xingchen had now arrived at the profound abyss, where terrifying black devilish qi continuously surged out. The treasure location on the ancient treasure map in his mind began to emit a golden light. This was the first time the ancient treasure map had emitted light, causing Yi Xingchen to frown slightly and mutter to himself. The treasure location is actually within the profound abyss. The next moment, feeling the terrifying attack hurtling towards him, Yi Xingchen clenched his hand into a fist, and a terrifying emperor's qi descended. Faintly, a 9-colored divine halo appeared behind him, exuding boundless majesty. This made Yi Xingchen appear like an ancient deity at this moment. He unleashed a punch, carrying boundless divine might and flashing with dazzling divine radiance, as if it could shatter the universe and destroy the firmament, striking towards the demon race members. With a loud boom, the terrifying strike of the 3 demon race Great Emperor powerhouses collided with Yi Xingchen's fist, producing a huge sound. The 3 massive figures also retreated rapidly, with black blood scattering in the air. Yet, Yi Xingchen stood firmly in place, not moving an inch. The 3 demon race Great Emperor powerhouses finally managed to halt their retreat, letting out unwilling roars. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Who exactly are you? So young. How can you possess such strength? Could it be that you possess a demon-suppressing divine treasure? As soon as their voices fell, the 3 demon race Great Emperor powerhouses let out another unwilling roar, and their entire bodies began to crumble inch by inch, turning into a puddle of black blood in the blink of an eye. At this moment, the entire scene fell silent. A glint of light flashed in the depths of Qin Haoyan's eyes. Everyone from the various forces also felt a stir in their hearts. They heard the words of the 3 demon race Great Emperor powerhouses clearly. The Demon Clan Emperor possessed a demon-suppressing divine treasure, which was why he became so terrifying, slaying Great Emperor powerhouses like ants. Suddenly, on the Golden Lotus platform, Tian Lingzi's skeleton spoke. Alas, what a pity. This venerable's divine energy is exhausted, unable to prevent the demon race's emergence. I hope this small world can hold him back for a while. The exit is on that platform over there. You all should leave quickly. This venerable will destroy that teleportation array, hoping that this small world's dormancy can prevent the demon race from invading the divine wilderness. Hearing this voice, countless forces hastily flew towards the platform, eager to leave this place as quickly as possible. Yi Xingchen, however, remained calm. His subsequent actions directly caused the people from the various major forces, who had just saved their lives, to widen their eyes in utter disbelief. The 3 Great Emperor realm powerhouses couldn't help but look at Yi Xingchen with a hint of admiration. Chapter 114. Suppressing the Demon Race, Returning to the Divine Wilderness. At this moment, Yi Xingchen remained perfectly calm. Watching the profound abyss gush even more frenziedly, he gave a soft snort and said, the demon race still dreams of entering the divine wilderness continent. Utter fantasy. With this emperor here, do you demons really think you can come and go as you please? Suppress. The instant his words fell, a stone blazing with endless divine splendor appeared above the profound abyss. It radiated the most rigid, most yang aura. Terrifying bolts of lightning and scorching flames coiled around it. When the dense, black, devilish chi met that radiant stone, it actually began to recoil, as though confronting something utterly terrifying. An unspeakably evil, enraged voice roared from the depths of the profound abyss. Who dares block the demon race's emergence? The Hunyuan Town Demon Stone. How could divine wilderness still possess it? Who is it? Damn it. Suddenly, the abyss's dreadful, devilish chi vanished. In the next instant, a gigantic face formed of black demonic aura appeared at the entrance, its pair of ice-cold, blood-red eyes locking onto Xingchen. The moment that huge face appeared, it began to sizzle and emit white smoke. Trying to break through the Hunyuan Town Demon Stone suppression, it was blocked by the stone's radiant, rigid yang divine light and let out a miserable shriek. In the next moment, it fled straight back into the profound abyss. A voice overflowing with boundless hatred echoed from the depths. This emperor remembers you. Even though the Hunyuan Town Demon Stone seals the passage, and I cannot enter divine wilderness from here, one day I will descend upon this world, swallow you alive, chain your soul, and make you suffer day after day, unable to live yet unable to die. As soon as the words ended, the corners of Xingchen's mouth curled in disdain. A rat in its burrow, hiding in the dark, dares threaten this emperor? You should rejoice that you didn't emerge. Otherwise your fate would have been even worse than those few just now. Without giving that voice another chance to speak, Xingchen sent a stream of immortal spiritual power into the Hunyuan Town Demon Stone, which instantly expanded. With a thunderous boom, it landed squarely at the entrance of the profound abyss. The endless devilish chi vanished, and the ominous weight pressing on everyone's hearts finally disappeared. The scene shifted. In boundless darkness, a hazy figure appeared. Its pair of blood-red eyes carried an extreme calm, the sort of utter composure an ancient emperor shows while overlooking mere ants, icy to the limit. Strange powers spread outward from the figure. Its mighty aura caused the dark space to crack with countless spatial rifts, as though the void could not contain that terrifying form. At this point, the figure spoke, its voice likewise carrying ultimate coldness, impossible to tell whether male or female. Mo Wuzuan has just reported. The passage into divine wilderness has been sealed by the Hunyuan Town Demon Stone. It seems we'll have to descend via another route. The figure paused for a moment, then continued. Transmit this seat's decree. All demon prodigies are to enter the sea of death. Any prodigy who emerges from that sea will be accepted as my personal disciple. I must win this 3-year covenant. The instant these words were uttered, a ghost-like silhouette materialized, knelt toward the figure, and said, Your decree is received. The scene shifted again, inside the small world. Countless factions gazed at the Hunyuan Town Demon Stone hovering above the profound abyss, its rigid yang light blazing, and all eyes showed shock. Many now looked at Xingchen with admiration. After all, for him to produce such a divine object without hesitation deserved their respect. If Xingchen had kept this artifact among the Yao race, even during a demonic invasion the demons would have steered clear of any territory under the Yao race's protection. Beside him, Qin Haoyan raised an eyebrow, the corner of his mouth curling in an expression that said, just as expected. At this moment, the golden lotus platform shrank and floated above Tian Lingzi's head, its sprinkling golden motes causing the dim skeletal remains to glow once more. Then Tian Lingzi's voice rang out, speaking to Xingchen. Young friend, your action is a great fortune that saves countless lives in divine wilderness. You will surely reap karmic blessings. Hearing the skeletal Tian Lingzi, Xingchen replied calmly, This emperor didn't think that far ahead, nor do I have such lofty ideals. I simply loathe the demons and don't want to see them. As for the so-called fortune senior speaks of, it makes no difference to this junior. Upon hearing this, Tian Lingzi's remains said, Good, straightforward and to my liking. Pity I can't drink now, otherwise I'd share a cup with you. Glancing at Xingchen, Tian Lingzi continued, No matter what, for you to offer such a treasure shows your true character. I presume you came here to seek treasures. In the end, no artifact was found, yet you lost a precious treasure yourself. Over the years, this seed has exhausted every item. All that remains is this accompanying divine object, the Lu Jin Lotus Platform. Today I gift it to you as a token of thanks. The moment Tian Lingzi finished speaking, the shrunken Lu Jin Lotus Platform floated up to Xingchen. The representatives of the various powers who saw this scene showed envy in their eyes. They had personally witnessed the might of that Lu Jin Lotus platform moments ago. Yet Xingchen, gazing at the Lu Jin Lotus platform before him, shook his head slightly and said, "This junior cannot accept it. If I take this Lu Jin Lotus platform, I'm afraid senior will." Hearing Xingchen's words, Tian Lingzi secretly praised him in his heart, then said, "Just take it, young friend. This Lu Jin Lotus platform is this sovereign's accompanying divine treasure. Its defense is astonishing. Though its grade has now fallen, and it's merely a heavenly Tao grade artifact, no one in the divine wilderness can break it. Besides, this sovereign now has only a wisp of divine essence left. My true body perished years ago, and this wisp is about to dissipate. Take it, young friend." After listening to Tian Lingzi, Xingchen hesitated no longer. He bowed deeply, reached out, and put away the Lu Jin Lotus platform. Suddenly, the entire small world shook violently, as though it might collapse at any moment. Everyone was shocked. Only Tian Lingzi's skeletal remains spoke calmly. "Young friend, leave quickly. This small world is about to fall dormant. If you don't leave, you'll never be able to exit. As the world spirit of this place, once I vanish, the small world will also sink into slumber. My final means to resist the demon race. Still, it is not as thorough as your Hunyuan Town Demon Stone seal." Upon hearing Tian Lingzi's words, every power stepped onto the teleportation array on the platform. White light flashed repeatedly as the various factions vanished one after another. In the end, only the Yao race, Myriad Flowers Divine Palace, and Purple Firmament Palace remained. Seeing this, Xingchen addressed Tian Lingzi. "Senior, this junior has many questions. Please enlighten me." Hearing Xingchen, Tian Lingzi replied, "There's little time left. Leave quickly, young friend. I can roughly guess what you wish to ask." As he finished, a golden jade talisman glowing with light appeared before Xingchen. Then he said to Xingchen, "Young friend, take it quickly and depart with the others. Inside this golden talisman should be everything you wish to know, including the primordial secrets." After listening, Xingchen carefully stored the golden jade talisman, clasped his hands, and bowed deeply to Tian Lingzi's remains. Behind him, Luo Qingshan, Hua Xun, and the others also bowed toward the skeleton. At that moment, Tian Lingzi's voice fell silent. The golden divine radiance on the bones slowly faded, turning to dust that drifted throughout the small world. The next instant, the world crumbled and fell into darkness. Xingchen and the rest dared not delay. They flashed onto the platform's teleportation array. A white light flashed, and their figures vanished. Just after Xingchen and the others disappeared, the small world completely sank into slumber, becoming utterly dark. Only the Hunyuan Town Demon Stone emitted a faint glimmer. The scene shifted to outside the small world. Xingchen and his group actually appear at the entrance to the Endless Forest. He saw none of the other powers. Evidently, the teleportation array had sent them to random locations. After the last person stepped out, a white flash consumed the array, erasing it as though it had never existed. Looking at everyone, Xingchen said, "Let's go. This trip's gains are decent. Most importantly, the disciples gained experience. We'll return to Shenlong City to rest tonight and make further plans tomorrow, all right?" Hearing him, Luo Qingshan, Hua Xuan, and Cloud Peace Spirit all nodded. This venture into Avicii Hell had truly been full of twists and turns. Even the demon race had appeared. It seemed the great era was arriving, the hidden world forces emerging, and the demon race wished to manifest in the world as well. Were it not for Xingchen, the demon race might truly have appeared on the divine wilderness continent. Seeing them nod, Xingchen waved his hand and said, "Let's go back to Shenlong City. This emperor has rewards for you." At Xingchen's words, the Yao race disciples and the Myriad Flowers Divine Palace disciples cheered in delight, while the Purple Firmament Palace disciples stared blankly. They had yet to learn how astonishing Xingchen's rewards could be. At that moment, inside Shenlong City, Qin Haoyan led the few remaining Qin family members onto the teleportation array to the Central Emperor Province, his eyes filled with icy intent. This journey to the Southern Emperor State had utterly disgraced the Qin family. Not only had the Qin family's second master died in Avicii Hell, they had also been publicly slapped in the face by the Yao race, becoming the laughingstock of the various powers. Qin Haoyan's eyes now gleamed with cold light as he thought to himself, "Xingchen, this saint's luck is heaven-defying. I can safely escape even from such a perilous place. Next, what you've brought upon me, I'll make you taste 100-fold. Then, first of all, I'll start with Huaxian of the Myriad Flowers Divine Palace. With that thought, an image of Hua Xuyan's stunning figure flashed through Qin Haoyan's mind. A wicked smile curved his lips, a white light flashed, and his figure vanished. Chapter 1:15 Ancient Secrets, the True Realm Divisions. At this moment, inside Shenlong City, Yi Xingchen and the others had already entered a restaurant. Exhausted from their ordeal in Avicii Hell, they returned to their rooms to rest early. Yi Xingchen, however, was in a hurry to examine the information Tian Lingzi had given him, hoping it would confirm his suspicions, and so he, too, went straight to his room. Knowing that Hua Xuyan would soon be leaving for Central Emperor Province, Luo Qingshan arranged to spend the entire night in deep conversation with her. The two were now as close as sisters. Luo Qingshan had originally planned to discuss a pill partnership with the Great Yin dynasty, but that plan had fallen through because of the Avicii Hell excursion, so she decided to negotiate the cooperation with Myriad Flower's Divine Palace instead. After all, while an outsider reaped the benefits. Unable to wait any longer, Yi Xingchen returned to his room, waved a hand to raise a barrier, and carefully took out of system space the golden jade talisman shimmering with divine light. He lifted the talisman, closed his eyes, and pressed it to his forehead. In the next instant, a torrent of information surged into his mind. Moments later, the talisman dimmed, and Yi Xingchen slowly opened his eyes. A gleam of divine light flashed across his pupils. The corner of his mouth lifted as he murmured, "This world is far more wondrous than I ever imagined." The golden talisman contained nearly all of Tian Lingzi's life experiences, including the ancient secrets Yi Xingchen had yearned to know. In primordial times, the immortal and demon races fought. The demon race was defeated and withdrew into the demon realm, forbidden to emerge until a new great era dawned. Across several ensuing great eras, the demons were suppressed each time they appeared, until a peerless demon lord arose and led them to break free. That age saw demons rampant, heaven and earth dimmed, sun and moon dulled. Because the human race innately resonated with the heavenly Tao and stood foremost among all spirits, the demons herded them as livestock and devoured them as blood food. Other races, including the Yao race, likewise suffered oppression. The demons' innate cruelty and bloodthirst earned that era the name, the Dark Epoch. To preserve their dominion, the demon lord descended upon every race once each decade. Any newborn prodigy discovered was instantly slain. Though seething with rage, none dared resist. Any clan that rose in defiance was wiped out entirely. Thus the Dark Epoch endured for countless years. Yet the heavenly Tao is impartial. When darkness reaches its extreme, light must appear. At last a supreme figure burst into the world, unrivaled in bearing, suppressing the universe, and sweeping away every demon expert. Invincible under heaven. He battled the peerless demon lord for 3 days and nights, finally crushing and killing him, striking terror into all demons. With that, the Dark Epoch ended. The demon race was sealed anew and driven back into the demon realm, forbidden to emerge until the next great era. Under this supreme being's guidance, the immortal realm entered a golden age. Stars glittered, glory boundless. Prodigies and mighty beings of every race emerged without end. Immortal emperors were commonplace, great emperors seen everywhere, and even celestial emperor experts appeared from time to time. Because he ushered in that resplendent age, all honored this supreme figure as Saint Ancestor. But extremes reverse. When light peaks, darkness returns. As experts multiplied, none would yield. Conflicts grew frequent, escalating from minor skirmishes to full-scale wars between races. Saint Ancestor personally mediated, slowly calming the strife, though rifts remained. When another great era arrived, the immortals, still mired in desire and intrigue, fought among themselves, while the demons, united and sharpening their blades, launched a new immortal demon war. That conflict shattered mountains and rivers, sent stars plummeting. In the end, the immortals won, but at ruinous cost, and the demons were sealed once more. From this war, the races realized that if they continued thus, the next cataclysm would see the demons break free and enslave them again. At that critical juncture, Saint Ancestor broke through anew and made a startling discovery. Beyond the divine wilderness lay lands better suited to cultivation, where immortal spiritual chi was denser, truly higher-grade chi, and the world itself vaster. The demon's rapid rise stemmed from the fact that this very realm was linked to the demon realm. After revealing this to every power, Saint Ancestor led their experts into that realm, waged war on the demons once more, and after years of effort finally drove them back into the demon realm. Using boundless divine power, Saint Ancestor sealed the passage and named the new realm, the Divine Realm. Its chi was henceforth called Divine Chi. After prolonged warfare, the great powers had adapted to the divine realm, founding sects there. When they returned to the divine wilderness continent, they found it barren by comparison. Its immortal spiritual chi was thin and far inferior to divine chi. Thus, countless forces simply stayed away, who would not seek a better place to cultivate. That is why, after the ancient immortal demon war, so many powers and experts vanished without a trace. Still, many mighty experts and factions left embers behind in the divine wilderness. Lily Empress, for example, hid the secret of the heavenly Tao treasure on the divine wilderness continent, hoping a fated one would inherit her legacy. Even the Saint Ancestor planted an ember there, though no one knows what it is. Rumor claims it is the method to break through to the supreme realm, yet the truth remains hidden. Among the sparks the major powers left, some are now the very hidden world forces of today. Of course, certain factions that had refused to join the immortal demon war wished to enter the divine realm the moment passage opened, only to meet opposition from the strong of every race. These factions had contributed nothing to the war. Fortunately, the Saint Ancestor decreed that if their descendants proved outstanding, they might still enter through effort. That is why the continent's hidden world forces are so powerful today. During the war, they kept their strength completely intact. Afterward, the Saint Ancestor, with boundless might, sundered the two realms for good. Since then, only the hidden world forces know how to reach the divine realm. Lingzi, however, chose to stay in a Vichy hell to suppress the demon race and never entered the divine realm. He thought that once the demons were sealed, he could live free and unfettered in the divine wilderness. He never imagined that this tiny demon passage would actually connect to the demon realm. The suppression lasted all these years, costing him his physical body, dropping his realm, and stripping him of his divine might. In the end, his moment of carelessness nearly let Yu Ming escape and almost release the demons. Had Xingchen not appeared, the divine wilderness would have faced catastrophe. Reviewing these memories, Xingchen sighed at how tragic Lingzi's fate had been. Expecting to seal the modest demon passage quickly, he had hoped to roam carefree across the divine wilderness. Who could have foreseen that the tiny passage linked straight to the demon realm? Without the system's reward of the Hunyuan Town Demon Stone, demons might already have invaded the divine wilderness. From Lingzi's memories, Xingchen learned that to reach the divine realm, one must step onto the ancient God Road and pass its trials. Every time the ancient God Road appears, the hidden world forces suppress news of it. Now the great era arrives, and the world changes unpredictably. Even they realize they can no longer keep this road secret. The summons Xingchen feels from the depths of the starry sky likely comes from the divine realm above the nine heavens. According to Lingzi, the so-called gods are merely titles given to those whose power reaches a certain level, for in primordial times countless supreme beings existed. Their strength was so overwhelming that mortals called them gods. The true hierarchy of realms is extensive, beginning with Immortal Emperor and ascending thus. Immortal Emperor, Great Emperor, Celestial Emperor, Ancient Emperor, Ancestral Emperor. In ancient days, the Ancestral Emperor realm was termed Void God Realm, the very level Lingzi occupies. Above Void Godlike God Realm, Heavenly God Realm, Ancient God Realm, Ancestral God Realm, and Supreme Realm, the realm of the Saint Ancestor who founded this glorious age. Within Lingzi's memories, there is a vague hint that beyond Supreme Realm, further realms exist. Xingchen can dimly make out. Above Heavenly Tao, beyond Transcendence, Endless Great Tao. Reading this, Xingchen's lips curled in a smile. The world was far more wondrous than he had imagined. The path he once resolved to walk, to stand above the peak, was still long indeed. He rose and went to the window. Though it was already late night, outside Shenlong City, the crowd still surged. The great era has come, and the immortal spiritual chi of the divine wilderness is now several times richer than before. Prodigies within the major powers spring forth like bamboo after rain. In a little over a month will come the grand competition between provinces, and the god Wasteland Heaven's pride ranking will be turned on its head. Thinking of that ancient treasure map, Xingchen felt regret. The treasure trove had actually ended up inside the demon passage. Presumably, great changes of heaven and earth shifted the mountains and relocated the site. With a faint smile, he shook his head. When had he become so obsessed? He possessed the system, whose daily sign-in rewards were things even divine wilderness and divine realm cultivators had never seen. Now he hankered after mere treasure. He gave a soft chuckle and murmured, "It seems when I return to the Yao race tomorrow, I must calm my heart. I wonder how our disciples are cultivating now that the great era has come. As both Demon Clan Emperor and tutor of the Yao race, I ought to pay proper attention to their progress." Suddenly the system's voice sounded beside his ear. "Ding! Today's check-in is about to expire. Host, do you wish to check in now? Once expired, it cannot be repeated. Only then did Xingchen realize he had forgotten to check in today. Fortunately, the system reminded him. Otherwise, he would have wasted a chance. Without hesitation, he spoke to the system. System, begin today's check-in. Chapter 116, Daily Sign-In, Gift Package. At this moment, Xingchen spoke to the system without hesitation. System, start today's check-in. The moment his voice fell, the system's melodious chime echoed beside his ears. Ding! Check-in in progress successful. Congratulations, host. Reward, 1 million high-grade, divine stones, already deposited into system space. Ding! Check-in successful. Congratulations, host. Reward, 1 million bottles of supreme, divine wine. Ding! Check-in successful. Congratulations, host. Reward, 1 Hunyuan Town Demon Stone. Hearing the sweet notification, Xingchen smiled. The system had actually given him another Hunyuan Town Demon Stone. An absolutely good thing. With the Hunyuan Town Demon Stone, no matter how high their cultivation or how many there are, a single activation crushes every demon. Utterly badass. He nodded in satisfaction, then glanced at the piles of high-grade divine stones and supreme divine wine, eyes full of delight. He had been worrying about what rewards to give his disciples tomorrow, especially for Purple Firmament Palace. He wanted Yun Anling to bring some supreme divine wine back to Xiaoyajun. Now the system had showered him with so many divine stones and wine. He could afford to be even more generous. Early the next morning, Xingchen woke up at dawn. Myriad Flowers Divine Palace and Purple Firmament Palace would leave Nanhuangzhou today, and his group would return to Eastern State. Seeing the sky outside still dim, he sat by the window and decided to finish today's check-in right then. So he spoke. System, start today's check-in. Ding! Check-in successful. Congratulations, host. Reward, Universe All Heavens Palm. Universe All Heavens Palm, Dao Grade, Martial Skill. One palm unleashed can transform heaven and earth, shatter all laws. Any order, law, or domain under this palm turns to nothingness. The palm technique is extremely domineering and costly. With the host's ancient Emperor Realm cultivation, only one strike is possible, after which immortal spiritual power is completely depleted. Use with caution. Ding! Host, learn Universe All Heavens Palm immediately. Startled, Xingchen excitedly answered. System, learn Universe All Heavens Palm now. Ding! Learning in progress. Congratulations, host. Because you possess the great Tao Chaos Body and heaven-defying luck, Universe All Heavens Palm has automatically reached the highest realm. Imagining transforming heaven and earth. Hearing that, Xingchen jumped up in excitement. It had been ages since the system awarded a martial skill, and a Tao grade one at that. How could he not be thrilled? And with one palm shattering all laws, it was practically a group attack. No matter what law or order, everything turned to void. He clenched his fists, secretly shouting, Awesome! Ding! Check-in successful. Congratulations, host. Reward, 1 bottle of heaven-mending fortune pills. Heaven-mending fortune pill, divine rank medicinal pill, refined from 100 immortal plants, and nourished by chaos chi for 100 days. 1 pill instantly restores all immortal spiritual power. Because the pill formula is lost, this is the last bottle. Cherish it well. Hearing the sweet notification, Xingchen burst into loud laughter. The pills and palm technique were a perfect match. Moments ago, the system warned him to be careful. At his current strength, he could only use 1 palm. The next instant, it rewarded him with pills that instantly restore immortal spiritual power, turning him into a veritable destroyer king. When no further sound came from the system, Xingchen calmed himself and saw the sky outside had brightened. He stepped out of the room. Just outside, he found Luo Qingshan and the others already up. Smiling at Luo Qingshan and Hua Xuan, he gave a gentle grin. Luo Qingshan blinked, surprised her husband was up so early, while Hua Xuan gazed at him with deep affection and a hint of reluctance. Seeing that reluctance, Xingchen walked over, took her hand, whispered something softly in her ear, and smiled. Her eyes lit up, and she exclaimed, Really? You can't be lying to Xuyan. Seeing his earnest nod, Hua Xuyan finally showed a shy, happy smile. At that moment, Yun Anling happened to lead the people of Purple Firmament Palace into the room. Seeing that everyone had arrived, Xingchen finally spoke. Let's go to the teleportation array. When the group reached the array, Xingchen walked over to Yun Anling, gave a slight smile, and said, Elder Yun, please remember to pass the undying divine tree flower and the Pan Tao divine fruit to Yajun. And also give her this ring. Looking at the storage ring Xingchen offered, Yun Anling took it, nodded gently, and replied, Rest assured, Emperor Yi, this elder will deliver everything to the palace master. Thank you for your protection in a Vichy hell. Without it, our purple firmament palace disciples could never have left unharmed. With that, Yun Amling clasped her fist to bow, but Yi Xingchen stopped her, saying, No need for courtesy, Elder Yun. Given my relationship with Yajun, it's only natural. After speaking, Yi Xingchen produced another ring and said, Inside is some supreme, divine wine and high-grade divine stones for you and the purple firmament disciples. The wine is potent. Drink it beforehand. It can restore immortal spiritual qi and gradually raise cultivation. As for the divine stones, Elder Yun knows how to use them. Hearing this, Yun Anling was about to refuse, but Yi Xingchen cut in. Elder Yun must accept, or your palace master will accuse this emperor of stinginess. At those words, Yun Anling smiled, accepted the gift, and the purple firmament disciples behind her beamed, calling out, Thank you, Emperor Yi. Thank you, Emperor Yi. After Yi Xingchen bade the disciples rise, Yun Anling nodded to him and said, Emperor Yi, then this elder will take her leave, until we meet again. Hearing her, Yi Xingchen replied, Very well, Elder Yun, safe travels. Until next time. Yun Anling then nodded to Luo Qingshan and Hua Shuyan, stepped into the array with the purple firmament disciples, and vanished in a flash. As the white light faded, Yi Xingchen walked smilingly to Hua Shuyan. Seeing the myriad flowers divine palace disciples' delight, he wasted no words, produced 2 storage rings, and said, This one is for the myriad flowers disciples, supreme divine wine and high-grade divine stones inside. And this one holds a gift I prepared for Shuyan. The Lujin Lotus platform is also within. Refine it well after returning. Its defense is astounding and can avert calamity. Hearing him, Hua Shuyan grew anxious and exclaimed, The Lujin Lotus platform is too precious. It should go to elder sister. Shuyan cannot accept it. Luo Qingshan smiled gently and said, Since husband has given it to little sister, accept it. Elder sister already has hers, so rest easy. At Luo Qingshan's words, Hua Shuyan shyly stole a glance at Yi Xingchen. Seeing his gentle smile, her face reddened further as she recalled what he had just said. Gathering courage, she spoke to Yi Xingchen, cheeks flushed. Shuyan will wait for you in Central Emperor Province. The moment the words left her lips, she spun around, leading the myriad flowers disciples onto the array. Only then did she dare lift her gaze, tears glistening, full of tender affection. A flash of white light, and Hua Shuyan's group disappeared. Watching the empty array, Yi Xingchen smiled and said, Let's head back too. When we reach the Yao race, we'll celebrate and share out the rewards. Hearing him, Xikong Yao, by Wu You, Fong Ming, and the other 8 Yao prodigies cheered. Emperor is mighty. Emperor is mighty. The scene shifted inside the main hall of the hidden Qin family. Seated at the head, Qin Xuanxiu listened to Qin Haotian, then said sinisterly, Though second brother did not die by Yi Xingchen's hand, he dared belittle our hidden Qin family. That alone is unforgivable. And myriad flowers divine palace, a mere divine wilderness power, dares oppose us, equally unpardonable. Someone, go to the ancestral shrine and invite great uncle to the hall. Our Qin family has stayed hidden so long that every mangy dog thinks it can touch a dragon's reverse scale. It's time for the divine wilderness powers to feel the might of the hidden Qin family. At this moment, Qin Chuanxiu's killing intent surged. Bloodthirsty light flared in his eyes, and a hellish sea of blood roiled behind him like a demon god. Chapter 117, Undying Underworld King Body. Shock of the Purple Firmament Palace Experts. At this moment, hearing Qin Xuanxiu's words, a sinister look flashed in Qin Haotian's eyes, and Hua Shuyan's beautiful figure began to emerge in his mind. He spoke to Qin Xuanxiu. Father, this time to the myriad flowers divine palace. I want to go too. At this time, Qin Xuanxiu, who was boiling with murderous intent and emitting bloodthirsty divine light in his eyes, looked at his son, and his murderous intent calmed down. He said, Tian'er, now that the great era has arrived and our Qin family has emerged, you, as the holy son of the Qin family, although your strength is considered good among the younger generation, is still somewhat lacking compared to the truly peerless prodigy. For example, the Demon Empress and the Master of Myriad Flowers Divine Palace are about the same age as you, but they have all reached the immortal Emperor realm in cultivation. Now that the great era has arrived and the world has undergone tremendous changes, I am afraid that the hidden families will no longer be able to suppress this generation's ancient god road. At that time, people from the entire divine wilderness continent, as well as the seeds left behind by various forces in ancient times, will emerge in this generation, and various top-level prodigies will also appear out of nowhere. If Tian'er wants to set foot on the peak, suppress the current world, step onto the ancient god road, and enter the divine realm, he still needs to break through his strength to the immortal emperor realm. Only in this way can Tian'er soar into the sky in the future when he steps onto the ancient god road, break the shackles by stepping on the corpses of all the prodigies, sublimate to the extreme, and enter the supreme divine realm that all hidden families dream of. Hearing his father's words, a trace of loneliness flashed in the depths of Qin Haoyan's eyes. As the underworld king body, he was born with unparalleled aptitude and was backed by the hidden Qin family, this great mountain. Now, his strength is only at the immortal monarch realm. He had always been secretly complacent, but now, after hearing his father's words and thinking of Luo Qingshan and Hua Shuyan's strength, Qin Haoyan couldn't help but frown slightly. Seeing the trace of loneliness in his son's eyes, Qin Shuanxiu smiled slightly, and a domineering voice sounded. Tian'er doesn't need to be like this. The entire divine wilderness, including the hidden world forces, does indeed have peerless prodigies, but my son should be respected above all. Qin Haoyan, who was standing below, smiled helplessly and said, "Father, please don't deceive your child anymore. Compared to the peerless prodigies that father speaks of, your child is indeed inferior." After saying that, Qin Haoyan clenched his hands tightly, and that intense unwillingness surged into his heart. Hearing Qin Haoyan's words and looking at the way Qin Haoyan clenched his hands, Qin Shuanxiu, who was sitting above, said with a smile on his face, "Tian'er, your father didn't deceive you. Those prodigies should indeed respect Tian'er above all. Now that the great era has arrived, your father will no longer hide it from you." When Tian'er was born, the world shook, golden light illuminated the world, countless illusory figures of immortals and Buddhas kowtowed. Purple Qi came from the east for 9,000 miles. He was extremely noble, and even the underworld king's shadow appeared, shocking the Qin family old ancestor. As a result, it was discovered that Tian'er's physique is the once-in-a-million years undying underworld king body, which is a natural emperor's aptitude. In order to prevent other hidden world forces from knowing, the Qin family old ancestor secretly took action and sealed Tian'er's physique with great magic power. Let all the hidden world forces know that Tian'er is the underworld king body. Although this physique is still rare, it can be accepted by them. However, even so, Tian'er's aptitude is still powerful. He has still broken through to the immortal monarch realm at such a young age. Now that the great era is coming, the various powerful physiques hidden by those hidden world forces will definitely appear one after another. Now is also the time for our Qin family's Qilin to truly be born. In a moment, you will return to the ancestral shrine with your great-grandfather and let the old ancestor remove your seal. In addition, with the Qin family's foundation and the Pan Tao divine fruit obtained from this trip, I believe that it will not be long before Tian'er will definitely become a young supreme, immortal emperor. Hearing his father's words, Qin Haoyan's eyes widened, and he asked in shock, "Father, is what you said true?" Looking at Qin Haoyan's shocked appearance, Qin Shuanxiu smiled slightly and nodded seriously. In the next moment, Qin Haoyan couldn't help but laugh out loud, as if he wanted to vent all the anger in his heart. The heart demon that arose when facing Xingchen also turned into fragments at this moment and disappeared without a trace. The scene changes to the Phoenix Perch Palace of the Yao race. Xingchen was lying comfortably in the lake pavilion, with the gentle sound of waves coming from his ears and a breeze blowing on his face. This peaceful and comfortable feeling instantly dispelled Xingchen's fatigue from this trip. Stretching, Xingchen couldn't help but mutter to himself, "It's still the most comfortable here." At this moment, Xingchen, who had just returned to the Yao race, gave 1,000,000 high-grade divine stones and 1,000,000 bottles of supreme divine wine to Luo Qingshan, asking her to reward all the Yao race disciples. Then, he returned to the lake pavilion of the Phoenix Perch Palace. Luo Qingshan knew her husband's character, gave her husband a charming look, smiled helplessly, and turned around to take everyone to the 10,000 Demon Square. Xingchen was lying comfortably in the lake pavilion at this moment, with a slight smile on his lips, thinking about giving Luo Qingshan a surprise when he returned at night. After all, there was still a Bodhi divine tree in his system space, which was one of the 9 ancient divine trees. There was a supremely precious Bodhi divine fruit on it. After taking it, one could directly comprehend a complete Great Tao law. He believed that Luo Qingshan would definitely like it. The scene changes again to a magnificent hall located in a vast sea of clouds. Yun Anling was standing respectfully below, talking to a stunning figure above. On both sides of the hall, there are dozens of experts sitting with their eyes closed, resting their minds. The aura emanating from their bodies was all at the great emperor realm. This place was actually the main hall of the Purple Firmament Palace. The stunning figure in the main seat above was the master of Purple Firmament Palace, Xiao Yajun. At this moment, hearing Yun Amling's words, Xiao Yajun said calmly, "Yin Elder, you have worked hard. It seems that now that the Great Era has arrived, other forces have also emerged. It is right for our Purple Firmament Palace to emerge now. However, there are actually demon race members in Avicii Hell. It seems that with the arrival of the Great Era, the demon race is about to make a move again. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. However, what did Yin Elder say about someone helping you on this trip to Avicii Hell? Could it be someone from another hidden family?" Hearing Xiao Yajun's question, Yun Amling immediately said, "That's right, Palace Master. If it weren't for this person's help this time, I'm afraid it would be another matter whether our Purple Firmament Palace disciples, or even your subordinate, could return safely." This person said that he was an old acquaintance of the Palace Master, and even asked your subordinate to bring extremely precious divine objects to the Palace Master. Moreover, at the time of parting, this person also sent out many high-grade divine stones and supreme divine wine as gifts to your subordinate and the Purple Firmament Palace disciples. Your subordinate dares not make decisions on her own and asks the Palace Master to decide. After Yun Amling finished speaking, she directly took out the 2 storage rings that Xingchen had given. Then, with a flip of her hand, she took out something that emitted a rich, fruity fragrance, causing the dozens of great Emperor experts who were originally sitting on both sides of the hall with their eyes closed, resting their minds, to open their eyes in shock and say in unison with disbelief, "Undying divine tree flower. Pan, Tao divine fruit." At this time, Xiao Yajun, who was sitting above, also had a shocked expression. An unparalleled white-robed figure appeared in her mind, and she muttered to herself, "Is it him?" Chapter 118. Xiao Yajun's Heart, Luo Qingshan's Shock. At this moment, inside the main hall of Purple Firmament Palace, several dozen great Emperor experts, smelling the rich fruit and flower aromas, stared at the undying divine tree flower and Pan Tao divine fruit in Yun and Ling's hand. All of them rose excitedly, faces full of shock. At this instant, they understood that even people from the other hidden world forces would never bestow such priceless divine items on Xiao Yajun. Even if every one of them coveted her Xiannian phoenix body, it would still be impossible. One white-haired old woman was so stirred that she spoke aloud. "The undying divine tree flower, one of the 9 great divine trees of prehistory, blooms 9 flowers, each with 9 petals. Swallowing a single petal can extend life 1,000,000 years, cure every illness, and even allow comprehension of the law of life among the supreme laws. A treasure rarely seen even in the divine realm. Indeed, yet the undying divine tree flower can only grow within Yellow Spring's water that corrodes all things. A priceless item capable of prolonging life 1,000,000 years actually springs from water that devours everything. Thus the heavenly Tao of all things, karma and cycle, are preordained." Hearing the white-haired old woman, another elder seated beside her added, "And the Pan Tao divine fruit, an unsurpassed divine fruit of the ancient divine court. After the immortal demon war, the Pan Tao divine tree was destroyed, so this fruit is seldom seen. Though useless to us, below a mortal emperor, a cultivator who eats it breaks through an entire major realm. In antiquity, it was awarded to prodigy disciples. An equally rare divine fruit." At this point, a third old woman chimed in. Yet Xiao Yajun, seated in the main seat above, seemed deaf to their words. Her heart pounded uncontrollably. She knew she seldom left the palace and had no old acquaintances in the divine wilderness continent. Except one. Recalling that white-robed figure, Xiao Yajun's cheeks flushed crimson as she asked Yun and Ling, "Elder Yun, who is this person you speak of?" Hearing her inquiry, Yun and Ling answered, "Palace Lord, the undying divine tree flower, the Pan Tao divine fruit, and these 2 storage rings were all bestowed by the Demon Clan Emperor, Xingchen. Without Lord Ye's special protection along the way, our Purple Firmament Palace disciples would have suffered grievous losses." The moment Yun and Ling uttered, Xingchen, Xiao Yajun's wildly beating heart inexplicably calmed, and she murmured, "It really is him." Calmly seated upon the main throne, Xiao Yajun's mind echoed with Xingchen's voice. "By human race custom, you are now this emperor's woman." For some reason, remembering the nervous way he'd said it, she couldn't help but smile. Looking up to find the hall of experts, and Yun and Ling staring curiously, her face flushed scarlet, and she feigned composure. Indeed, Xingchen is an old acquaintance of this palace. Seeing their curiosity, she quickly changed the subject, storing away the Pan Tao divine fruit and undying divine tree flower. With a sweep of her divine sense, she flicked 1 storage ring toward Yun and Ling and said, "Since it's him who sent gifts, Elder Yun, accept them." Distribute them to the disciples who entered Avicii hell. Yin and Ling, elated, exclaimed, "Many thanks, Palace Lord. This supreme divine wine is mellow and fragrant, truly worthy of the title." Hearing this, the several dozen great emperor experts' eyes blazed as they stared eagerly at Xiao Yijun. It seems cultivators, man or woman, cannot resist fine wine. Noticing their expressions, Xiao Yijun gave a helpless smile, produced tens of thousands of bottles of supreme divine wine, and waved them to the white-haired old woman. "Grand Elder, divide the wine, but send some to the old ancestor as well." The moment her words fell, Xiao Yijun's figure vanished. After she left, the experts happily took a bottle each, drank, and cried out, "Excellent wine, worthy to be crowned king among spirits." Meanwhile, Xiao Yijun sat in a lavishly decorated chamber. Gazing at the sea of clouds beyond the window, she slowly sipped the supreme divine wine, her eyes filled with mixed emotions: joy, unease, helplessness, and above all, longing. Yet when she thought of her physique, a deep sorrow welled up. She forced down the yearning in her heart. Watching the clouds, a sense of powerlessness arose, something she'd never felt even in the gravest danger. "AI," a long sigh echoed, plunging the room into silence. At that moment, Xingchen, as if sensing something, rose and looked toward the direction of Purple Firmament Palace in Central Emperor Province. As he stared, a gentle voice sounded. "Husband, what are you looking at so intently? Xingchen arrived, and you didn't even notice." Hearing Luo Xingchen, Xingchen turned to see her standing gracefully behind him, gazing tenderly. He smiled, stepped to her side, took her hand gently, and said, "I was just thinking of telling you tonight when you returned. Have you ever heard of the Bodhi Divine Tree?" The Bodhi Divine Tree? One of the 9 great divine trees? They say meditating beneath it raises comprehension and greatly increases the chance of grasping the 3,000 great Taoists. Is that the tree you mean? Xingchen blinked. "You actually know of it?" Luo Xingchen gave a helpless smile. Accustomed to her husband's frequent ignorance, she softly explained, "It's not just me. Every force in the divine wilderness knows. Heavenly Tao sect in Central Emperor Province has one. When I trained among the human race, I visited and meditated beneath it. My mind did feel clearer. But rumors that one can comprehend the 3,000 great Taoists must be false. The great Taoists number 3,000. How easily could anyone grasp them? Only peerless prodigies can. Even I have barely entered the threshold of Tao comprehension, perhaps because I'm of the Yao race. For our disciples, comprehending a great Tao is 1,000 times harder." Listening, Xingchen glanced at the miniature Bodhi divine tree in his system space and asked, "Was the tree you saw 100 zhang tall, umbrella-shaped with lush branches, most importantly engraved with the 3,000 great Taoists?" Luo Xingchen shot him a charmingly exasperated look. How could any tree endure engravings of the 3,000 great Taoists? They'd shatter it. In 100 zhang? Impossible. What I saw was at most 10 zhang tall. At her words, Xingchen smiled, certain the so-called Bodhi divine tree in Heavenly Tao sect was fake, probably without the sect even knowing. He gave a mysterious smile, whispered something to Luo Xingchen, and she cried out in shock. "Fake? How could that be? Heavenly Tao sect cherishes that tree. How could it be false?" Seeing her stunned, Xingchen's next words left the usually calm Luo Xingchen wide-eyed and utterly disbelieving. Chapter 119, Heart to Heart, the True Bodhi Divine Tree. At this moment, Xingchen looked at Luo Xingchen's stunned expression and smiled faintly. "My dear wife, there's no need to be surprised. This is exactly what your husband wanted to tell you. The Bodhi Divine Tree in the Heavenly Tao sect is probably fake. They themselves might not even know it's fake. The real Bodhi Divine Tree stands about 100 zhang tall, umbrella-shaped, with lush branches and leaves. The 3,000 great Taoists are carved upon it. It blooms once every 10,000 years and bears fruit after another 10,000. The fruit is golden and contains a complete great Tao law. Consuming it grants instant enlightenment. Moreover, meditating beneath the Bodhi Divine Tree can instantly raise one's comprehension ability and greatly increase the chance of perceiving the 3,000 great Taoists. Legend says one might even comprehend the rumored God Tao." Hearing Xingchen's words, Luo Xingchen was shocked and couldn't help exclaiming, "Husband, you know so many details. Have you seen the true Bodhi Divine Tree before?" Seeing her astonished face, Xingchen gave a mysterious smile and said gently, "Indeed, I have seen it. To the Yao race, this tree is immensely valuable. It can absolutely help Yao disciples deepen their insight into the great Tao." Learning that her husband had truly seen the Bodhi Divine Tree, Luo Xingchen grew excited. As he'd said, the Yao race struggled to to comprehend the Tao. Obtaining this tree could transform their entire race. Luo Qingshan, now visibly thrilled, grabbed Yi Xingchen's hand and asked, "Husband, can you tell Shaner where you saw this divine tree? Does it have an owner? A treasure like that surely must, but we could negotiate to let Yao disciples cultivate beneath it. Our race will pay any price." Seeing her so animated, Yi Xingchen decided to tease his adorable wife. The Bodhi divine tree does have an owner. But how could such a treasure be opened to outsiders casually? From what I know, the cost would be enormous. At his words, Luo Qingshan shook his arm excitedly and cooed, "Husband, tell Shaner quickly. No price is too high for the Yao race." Watching her act so coquettishly, Yi Xingchen felt his heart melt. Only in front of him would Luo Qingshan lower all her defenses and reveal her truest self. He leaned to her ear and whispered mysteriously, "Then my wife must promise herself in marriage, or else the owner of the Bodhi divine tree will never agree to your request. Are you willing to pledge yourself?" Hearing that, Luo Qingshan immediately replied, "Impossible. The Yao race can meet any other condition, but never this. Shaner in this life." She lifted her head to look at him. Seeing his mysterious grin, the words on her tongue halted. The pair, already attuned to each other's hearts, needed no more explanation. Luo Qingshan instantly knew who the owner was. She shot him a charming glare and inwardly muttered, "This adversary of mine." A crimson blush then flooded her exquisite face. She clenched her fists and lightly pounded his chest, coyly scolding. "Husband teases Shaner. Teases her." Yi Xingchen's lips curved in a gentle smile as he tenderly drew her into his arms and murmured, "Wife, marrying you is the luckiest thing in my life. Having you is wonderful." Enveloped in his embrace, Luo Qingshan sensed his deep affection. Her heart stirred. She hugged him back tightly and whispered shyly, "Shaner is equally fortunate to wed you. It's the happiest thing in this life." By now, dusk had fallen. Moonlight spilled over them, stretching their silhouettes longer and longer. Their smiles reflected in the pure radiance, love in its most innocent form. At dawn the next day, Yi Xingchen opened his eyes and looked at Luo Qingshan in his arms. She lay against his chest, gazing at him with deep affection. After last night's heartfelt confessions, the bond between them had grown even stronger. Smiling gently, Yi Xingchen said softly, "Wife, you're awake." Hearing him, Luo Qingshan gave a tender smile and nodded shyly. "Husband, daylight has come. Let's rise." Seeing her bashful look, Yi Xingchen grinned proudly and nodded. Amid playful banter they dressed. Noticing her hesitant expression, Yi Xingchen took her hand and said softly, "Wife, come. Let's find a suitable place, and I'll show you what the true Bodhi divine tree looks like." His words made Luo Qingshan's eyes light up. Realizing he had read her mind, she gave him a charming, sidelong glance. She led him by the hand to the rear mountain of the Yao territory. This core area was inaccessible to outsiders, spacious enough to accommodate planting the divine tree. Satisfied with the location, Yi Xingchen glanced at Luo Qingshan, drew the miniature Bodhi divine tree from his system space, infused it with immortal spiritual qi, and with a casual flick sent into the air above the mountain center. The next instant, golden light erupted. The Bodhi divine tree expanded rapidly. Thick roots, like mighty dragons, bored deep into the earth. The entire rear mountain quaked as a 100-jong-tall, umbrella-shaped colossus rose from the ground. The tremendous commotion drew countless Yao clansmen. When they saw the towering divine tree, every Yao, be they immortal emperor experts or the great emperor old ancestor Luo Shanhe, soared out from the ancestral land toward the rear mountain. Gazing at the enormous tree suffused with mysterious aura, everyone felt their minds suddenly clear. The whole tree radiated strands of golden Daorime. Each strand represented a Tao. The entire colossus seemed a microcosm of the 3,000 great Taos, all condensed into one tree. It also exuded a unique aura. Yi Xingchen knew this must be the legendary god Tao, the sole independent Tao among the 3,000 great Taos. As the saying goes, all 3,000 great Taos lead to godhood. Every Tao, cultivated to its limit, can open that path. Yet the god Tao is said to branch off on its own. Still, these are only legends. Whether anyone has ever comprehended the god Tao, or what power it holds, no one in the world truly knows. Now, every Yao clansman stared at the sky-piercing divine tree in shock. Luo Qingshan, equally stunned, turned excitedly to Yi Xingchen, but her next words left the surrounding Yao frozen in place, as if turned to stone. Chapter 120. The Might of the Bodhi Divine Fruit, Luo Qingshan's Breakthrough. At this moment, Luo Qingshan, her face full of shock, stared excitedly at Yi Xingchen and said in disbelief, Husband, this is the primordial ninth divine tree, the Bodhi divine tree. The instant Luo Qingshan's words fell, every Yao race member nearby froze on the spot, as though petrified. The place fell dead silent. Seeing everyone's stunned expressions, Xingchen smiled faintly and said, "Indeed, this is the true Bodhi divine tree." With a casual wave toward the Bodhi divine tree, a golden fruit suffused with Tao rhythms drifted down from the 100-jong-tall giant tree and landed in Xingchen's hand. Everyone's gaze was instantly drawn to the golden fruit in his palm. The Yao race old ancestor and great emperor powerhouse Luo Tianhe exclaimed in shock. Could this be the legendary Bodhi divine fruit? So precious that consuming it allows instant comprehension of an entire great Tao law. Gasp! The moment Luo Tianhe finished, gasps rang out all around. Hearing Luo Tianhe, Xingchen smiled and nodded. Xingchen walked to Luo Qingshan's side, placed the golden Bodhi divine fruit into her hand, and said gently, "This Bodhi divine fruit is for you, my wife. Find a quiet spot to take it. You'll surely grasp a complete great Tao law and may even shatter your shackles to break through into the great emperor realm." Listening to Xingchen and staring at the golden fruit in her hand, its surrounding space violently rippling, countless spatial laws swirling. Luo Qingshan's mouth fell open in astonishment. "Husband, the spatial laws around this fruit are so dense. Does it relate to the law of space? And it's far too precious. Since the Bodhi divine tree is yours, I can't accept it. You should take it." Hearing her, Xingchen gave a tender smile and gazed at her lovingly. "In my eyes, nothing is more precious than you, my wife. Obey me. Don't wait. Swallow it now. Sit beneath the Bodhi divine tree and comprehend a great Tao law that our Yao race rarely masters." Those nearby showed no jealousy, only warm smiles. Every Yao race member could feel how deeply their emperor cherished their empress. Finished speaking, Xingchen raised the golden fruit and, to Luo Qingshan's bashful blush, placed it into her mouth in front of everyone. The next instant, Luo Qingshan's willow brows knit slightly. Without another word, she flashed beneath the Bodhi divine tree, gave Xingchen a charming glance, then closed her eyes and sat in lotus position. The surrounding Yao race members knew the empress needed silence and immediately quieted down. Today might become a historic day for the Yao race. Since primordial times, no member had ever comprehended a complete great Tao law due to innate limitations. Now, that historic scene could unfold before their eyes. At this moment, Luo Qingshan's body radiated ripples of space. Great Tao light flowed, and countless spatial black holes appeared around her, mysterious and mighty. The next instant, the black holes vanished, the spatial ripples ceased, and Luo Qingshan's figure began merging with the surrounding space, disappearing from sight, impossible even to detect with divine sense. After roughly the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, her figure reappeared, now indistinct, as though she had stepped into another layer of space. Suddenly, vast amounts of immortal spiritual qi surged toward her. In moments it thinned the immortal spiritual qi throughout the Yao race's back mountain. Sensing the reduced qi entering her body, Luo Qingshan's brows slowly knitted together. Even the great Tao light around her began to dim. Seeing this, Xingchen instantly realized Luo Qingshan was about to break through to the great emperor realm, yet the surrounding immortal spiritual power was far from enough for her absorption. He recalled Lu Ruosu's breakthrough had never required such immense immortal spiritual qi. Clearly, his wife would be many times stronger than an ordinary great emperor after advancing. As her frown deepened, Xingchen wasted no time. With a wave, millions of high-grade divine stones appeared from his system space. A light tremor released terrifyingly dense, immortal spiritual power that poured into Luo Qingshan. Her furrowed brow gradually relaxed. The next instant, Luo Qingshan shuddered, and a terrifying great emperor aura burst forth, filling countless Yao race members with dread. They clenched their teeth and desperately circulated their cultivation to resist. Even immortal emperors released their own auras to withstand the pressure. Luo Tianhe waved his hand, erecting a barrier that finally lifted the terrifying suppression from the Yao race disciples. The aura Luo Qingshan now released unconsciously surpassed even old ancestor Luo Tianhe's, proof of how mighty she had become after advancing to great emperor realm. Meanwhile, above the Yao race, black thunderclouds carrying dreadful might began to gather. An instinctive fear rose in the hearts of the strong. The more powerful the cultivator, the stronger the dread. A short while later, Luo Qingshan's absorption of immortal spiritual qi slowed, finally stopping altogether. and she slowly opened her eyes. A powerful aura surged from within her, and her eyes flashed with light as she sensed the tremendous changes inside her body. With a single thought, she appeared beside Xingchen. No one had even seen how she moved. Overwhelmed with excitement, and ignoring the knowing smiles around her, she threw herself into Xingchen's arms and exclaimed, "Thank you, husband." This Bodhi-divine fruit was incredible. Not only did I comprehend the complete law of space, I even used it to break through into the great emperor realm. Feeling her excitement, Xingchen gently patted her back and said softly, "My wife, come now. We're one. No need for thanks, and so many people are watching." Only then did Luo Qingshan realize. Her face flushed scarlet as she jumped out of his embrace. At this moment, her blushing beauty and noble bearing left Xingchen momentarily dazed. Noticing his reaction, Luo Qingshan secretly called him a fool, turned away shyly, yet felt delighted inside. The surrounding Yao race members rolled their eyes at the intimate display between their empress and emperor, feeling force-fed a hearty helping of dog food. Still, their hearts brimmed with blessings for the couple. Boom! A sudden clap of thunder, as though the heavens themselves disapproved of their affection, jolted everyone awake. Only now did the many experts feel the increasingly terrifying pressure. Watching the dragon-like purple lightning streak through the black clouds, Luo Tian's eyes filled with worry, while countless Yao race members cried out, "Purple sky, divine thunder! The great emperor, heavenly tribulation." Chapter 121. The domineering imperial lord, the spatial Tao. At this moment, hearing Luo Tian's words, everyone felt the terrifying pressure descending from the void realm above and couldn't stop cold sweat from pouring down. This was the Yao race's innate terror toward lightning tribulation, an instinct rooted deep in their hearts. Right now, Luo Qingshan sensed the ever-stronger pressure above. The black tribulation clouds grew thicker, swirling like a vortex, seemingly within arm's reach. Luo Qingshan flashed away from the back mountain and the Bodhi-divine tree, and the tribulation clouds in the void, as though sensing her attempt to flee, boomed with thunder, tightening every heart. Watching the black tribulation vortex tailing her and the countless dragon-like purple bolts roaring inside, Luo Qingshan's expression turned grave as she called out, "All members of the Yao race, withdraw 1,000 meters from this empress at once, or you'll be caught in the blast." Hearing her order, everyone instantly flashed away. After all, every Yao tribesman had endured lightning tribulation before. They knew that if they stayed within her radius, the tribulations could multiply several-fold, harming rather than helping her. Xingchen, seeing a tribulation several times stronger than Lu Ruosu's great emperor tribulation, had to admit Luo Qingshan's aptitude was terrifying. The stronger the trial, the richer the heavenly Tao's reward, and the more fearsome her strength after passing. Yet those thick purple bolts in the clouds irritated him. Though Luo Qingshan possessed the guardian green lotus, the lightning posed no real threat. Still, knowing her, she would never summon the guardian green lotus until life and death hung in the balance. Watching several purple lightning dragons coil within the black clouds, Xingchen simply couldn't bear it. Such a terrifying bolt. If it struck her, he'd die of heartache. In a flash, he appeared beside her, gently taking her hand. He was about to speak when she cried out anxiously, "Husband, leave at once. If the purple sky divine lightning senses you, it will think you're defying the heavenly Tao. The consequences would be unthinkable." "Husband." Seeing her panic, Xingchen merely smiled and said softly, "Your husband can't bear watching such a fearsome tribulation strike you. Whether you're hurt or not, I'll ache for you." His words had barely fallen when the heavenly tribulation seemed to sense his provocation. The purple lightning dragons let out sky-shaking roars, poised to lunge. The surrounding Yao tribesmen, hearing their imperial lords still flaunting affection at such a moment, rolled their eyes in exasperation. Luo Qingshan's flawless face blushed crimson, yet urgency overrode shyness as she shouted, "Husband, Luo Qingshan knows you worry, but this is a great emperor tribulation, far different from the mixed tribulation before. Leave quickly." Yet Xingchen paid no heed. He stepped into the void, hands behind his back, releasing a world-shaking, sovereign aura that dominated the heavens. An ancient will proclaiming, "Who but I? Let all under heaven kneel, while I alone sit." It compelled everyone nearby to feel an urge to prostrate themselves. At this moment, Xingchen reigned like an ancient emperor. Even the purple lightning dragons snarled unwillingly and slunk back into the black clouds. Pointing at the black clouds, he released an ancient will and spoke calmly. "My will is the Tao's will, disperse." As his voice faded, the The vast tribulation clouds above the Yao race vanished as though they had never existed. Every Yao tribesman stared in shock at the white-robed figure standing in the void, eyes full of worship. This was their imperial lord, always the most mysterious, mighty, and trustworthy. With a single sentence he had dismissed a great emperor tribulation. How domineering, how confident. Luo Tianhe, gazing at that white-robed figure, was equally stunned. He had only heard rumors that Xingchen once dispersed the tribulation with words. Now witnessing that unrivaled dominance, he murmured, "In this life, the great era descends. The imperial lord Xingchen shall dominate the universe and sweep through the age." Suddenly, countless golden pillars of light descended. The radiance of the heavenly Tao, recognition and reward for Luo Xingchen, infinitely wondrous. Luo Xingchen gazed tenderly at that stalwart figure, her heart brimming with gentle affection. Once the heavenly Tao radiance faded and her realm fully stabilized, she instantly appeared beside Xingchen. Space didn't even ripple, proof of her profound grasp of the spatial Tao. Seeing her joy, Xingchen gently took her hand. The two locked eyes, no words needed. It was indeed cause for celebration. As a member of the Yao race, inherently disadvantaged in comprehending the Tao, her power had always exceeded her insight. Now she had mastered the spatial Tao, one of the mighty 3,000 great Taos, an immense joy. With the complete spatial Tao, she had stepped straight into the great emperor realm. So young a great emperor was nearly unheard of. And now, with a genuine Bodhi-divine tree bearing a Bodhi-divine fruit every 20 millennia, within a century, every Yao powerhouse could comprehend a complete Tao. Usually they could also meditate beneath the tree, likely to grasp one of the 3,000 great Taos. Once an impossible dream for the Yao race. The imperial lord had made that dream reality. Every Yao tribesman was elated. Seeing their excitement, Xingchen felt a surge of pride. With a wave of his hand, he proclaimed, "Today is a grand day for our Yao race. Celebrate. 10 bottles of supreme divine wine and 10,000 high-grade divine stones for each of you." At his words, every Yao tribesman cheered. Watching their delight, Xingchen continued, "But first, what are you waiting for? Sit beneath the Bodhi-divine tree and savor enlightenment. From now on, the great Tao is within our reach. You may come daily, yet remember, excess spoils. Gauge your own time. Never lose balance or forget your original heart." Understood. Hearing him, every Yao tribesman cupped their fists respectfully and answered, "We obey the imperial lord's decree." At that moment, a stunning news flash swept the Central Emperor province and raced toward the other 4 provinces. The Heavenly Tao Golden List, long controlled by the Heavenly Tao sect and absent for ages, has finally reappeared. Chapter 122, The Origin of Heavenly Tao Sect, the Golden List emerges. At this moment, every power in divine wilderness throughout Central Emperor Province was shaken by the news. The Heavenly Tao Golden List has actually appeared. Inside Heavenly Tao Sect, within an ancient hall, several mighty experts exuding formidable auras were gathered, discussing something. Judging by the chi they released, all of them were great Emperor realm powerhouses. If the other forces of divine wilderness continent saw this, their jaws would drop. Heavenly Tao Sect actually has so many great Emperor experts. Terrifying. Though Heavenly Tao Sect is the strongest sect in Central Emperor Province and rumored to have a powerful backer, no one expected this usually low-profile sect to have hidden so many great emperors. Watching the arguing great emperors below, a middle-aged man in the main seat spoke. "Enough. Stop arguing. The appearance of the Heavenly Tao Golden List must be linked to this great era. It seems this will be the final great era. Whether we can break the shackles and ascend into the divine realm depends on this age." Vast mana surged around the man. He was poised, eyes gleaming with divine light that daunted the soul. His whole being seemed suspended between reality and illusion, his face impossible to discern. Yet the moment he spoke, the great emperors below instantly fell silent, proof of his tremendous prestige. When those below heard the words divine realm, none showed surprise, as if the term were routine. The middle-aged man on the throne continued. "Our Heavenly Tao sect inherits from ancient times the spark on divine wilderness continent of a divine realm sect. Though we don't hide like the hidden world forces, our true strength is in no way inferior to any of them. Yet every time the ancient God Road opens, not a single disciple sets foot upon it and enters the divine realm. Surely the other divine realm sects have mocked us for years. Now, the Heavenly Tao Golden List has emerged on its own, presumably sensing that child's aura. This time, under that child's lead, Our sect will shatter the shackles and achieve ultimate ascension in this final great era." Hearing him mention that child, all the experts below smiled with satisfaction and nodded. Noting their reaction, the man went on. "With the heavenly Tao golden list revealed, every hidden prodigy of all forces across divine wilderness will be sensed and automatically listed, unable to conceal themselves. Those who make the list should be the ultimate prodigies qualified to tread the ancient God road during this great era. Proclaim my imperial decree. Abolish the God wasteland heaven's pride ranking. Only prodigies on the heavenly Tao golden list may enter the ancient God cemetery. I trust no power will object. After all, no one dares refute prodigies endorsed by the heavenly Tao." Hearing the decree, every expert below clasped their hands respectfully and answered in unison. "We respectfully obey the heavenly emperor's decree." The middle-aged man on the throne exuded the aura of a supreme heavenly emperor realm powerhouse. Watching the others depart, he murmured softly, "But with the great era descending and the ancient God cemetery opening, great upheaval will surely follow. For good or ill, who can say?" Scene shift inside the Yao race domain. At this moment, every member of the Yao race sat beneath the colossal Bodhi divine tree, each flickering with colored divine light, the sign of Tao comprehension. Luo Qingshan's heart thrilled at the sight, her gaze toward Xingchen growing ever more tender. Because of the Yao race's innate nature, comprehending the great Tao was far harder than for the human race, almost impossible. Yet this man before her had made it reality. Xingchen smiled at her, understanding her excitement. For the sake of the Yao race, she had poured in nearly all her efforts. Now the whole Yao race possessed not only the dragon transformation pool as its sacred treasure, but also the Bodhi divine tree, which granted them a chance to comprehend the great Tao. The Yao race would grow ever stronger, and empowering it had long been Luo Qingshan's dream. Now that the dream neared fulfillment, who could remain calm? Seeing her joy, Xingchen said gently, "All right, husband knows what his wife intends to do next, so I won't disturb you. I'll head back to Phoenix Perch Palace." Hearing him, Luo Qingshan asked curiously, "Husband knows what Qingshan plans to do next?" Watching her curiosity, Xingchen smiled tenderly. "My wife has just broken through to Great Emperor Realm and grasped the complete spatial Great Tao, one of the top 10 among the 3,000 Great Taos. Now you must want to share your insights with the Yao people. It will greatly aid them in comprehending Great Tao laws. How can I not guess?" However, he glanced at the meditating Yao under the tree, then leaned to her ear with a wicked grin and whispered something. Instantly, Luo Qingshan's cheeks flushed. She shot him a charming, reproachful glance. Xingchen merely chuckled, winked, and vanished. Face still crimson, Luo Qingshan pouted at the spot where he'd disappeared and muttered, "Jerk!" Suddenly, Ancestor Luo appeared beside her, watching Xingchen's departure with approval. "I can see the Emperor deeply loves the Empress. He is indeed worthy of her hand and a fine match. Still, I notice peach blossom luck lingers at the corners of his eyes. Empress should keep a close watch, or many women will gather around him." Hearing Ancestor Luo's sudden remark, Luo Qingshan's face, which had just cooled, flushed anew. She quickly changed the subject. "Ancestor, didn't you go to inspect Wandan Pavilion? Why return so soon? Because of the heavenly tribulation?" Ancestor Luo answered, "Partly. Seeing such dreadful tribulation clouds gathering above the Yao race worried me, so I hurried back. And I never imagined the Emperor would possess the Bodhi divine tree. Such a treasure can secure the Yao race's foundation for millions of years." As the Empress asked where he obtained it, Luo Qingshan shook her head, eyes full of tenderness. "I trust my husband and won't pry into his secrets. If he wishes to tell me, he will. If not, I won't ask. Xingchen is my husband. That alone is enough." Ancestor Luo nodded. "With such devotion, I am reassured. I also return with startling news to report to the Empress. The Heavenly Tao Sect's Heavenly Tao Golden List has appeared." Hearing this, Luo Qingshan exclaimed in surprise. "So the treasure has emerged. It must relate to the Great Era. No doubt Heavenly Tao Sect's Lord will issue an order to abolish the God Wasteland Heaven's pride ranking. After all, the Heavenly Tao Golden List carries far more weight." She gazed up at the towering Bodhi divine tree, eyes shining. It seems the next journey to the ancient God cemetery is near. Chapter 122, Chaos Great Emperor Pill, Luo Qingshan's request. At this moment, Xingchen couldn't care less about what was happening outside. He was lounging in the lake pavilion, legs crossed, sipping fine wine, looking utterly relaxed. Recalling Luo Qingshan's shy expression moments ago, Xingchen couldn't help but smile, warmth flowing through his heart. Remembering he hadn't checked in today, Xingchen immediately spoke to the system. System, start today's check-in. The moment Xingchen finished speaking, the system's voice rang out. Ding! Check-in in progress. Check-in successful. Congratulations, host. Reward received. 1 million bottles of supreme divine wine, already stored in system space. Ding! Check-in in progress. Check-in successful. Congratulations, host. Reward received. 1 bottle of Chaos Great Emperor Pills. Chaos Great Emperor Pill. A heavenly Tao-grade medicinal pill. In primordial times, a supreme mighty being collected water from the celestial river, added 100 divine materials, used the Chaos Divine Flower as catalyst, endured 1,000 lightning tribulations, and refined it for a century, producing exactly 81 pills. The day the pills were completed, golden light illuminated the world. Fragrance drifted for 100 li. Heavenly Tao light descended, shocking the ancient era and shaking the entire world. Extremely precious. Consuming one allows an immortal emperor to break straight through to the great emperor realm with heavenly Tao's recognition. No need to face the great emperor lightning tribulation. A truly unattainable treasure. Only this single bottle exists in the entire divine realm. Host, use with caution. Hearing the system's voice, Xingchen leapt up in excitement, unable to contain himself. He exclaimed, System, I really love you to death. You're practically the god of my heart. Too awesome. Yet the system's calm voice sounded beside his ear. Ding! Host, please remain calm. This system is #1 across all realms and will surely lead host to stand at the peak and dominate the universe. This is only the beginning. Xingchen settled down, gave an embarrassed chuckle, and reminded himself his composure still needed work. Xingchen had long worried that his friends and subordinates were too weak. Though he himself was powerful, ever since his guess was confirmed and he learned of the divine realm's existence, a faint anxiety had taken root. After all, that was a realm discovered by primordial holy ancestors. In ancient days, immortal emperors were everywhere, great emperor powerhouses common. Even celestial emperors seen daily, and ancient emperors appeared now and then. Yet now all these experts had entered the divine realm. One could imagine how mighty the divine realm's people were. With such formidable predecessors, abundant resources, and immortal spiritual chi many times denser than divine wilderness continent, how many powerhouses must have been born there over the ages. Moreover, divine wilderness continent still held many sparks left by the divine realm. Numerous hidden world forces had backers up above. The Yao race, however, had no patron in the divine realm. Unlike other powers, more or less connected up there, some hidden world forces even surviving since primordial times. One could guess how formidable those forces were. He'd thought that with so many immortal emperors the Yao race could finally rest easy. Who knew a trip to Avicii hell would unearth such a colossal secret? He had to reach the divine realm. Reborn in this life, from the instant he broke past himself, Xingchen resolved to climb to the very summit and see the view from the top. When that time came, he wouldn't abandon family or friends. The stronger they were, the safer they'd be upon entering the divine realm. After all, wherever you go, might makes right. Now the system had rewarded him with Chaos Great Emperor Pills. How could he not be thrilled? No lightning tribulation needed, direct heavenly Tao recognition, because the pill itself had already absorbed enough great Tao light. Xingchen slowly calmed himself, sat back down, and couldn't resist taking the jade bottle holding the pills from system space. Uncorking it, an incredibly rich fragrance wafted out. Terrifying energy spilled forth. A sweep of divine sense confirmed exactly 81 Chaos Great Emperor pills lying inside. These weren't merely 81 pills. They were 81 Great Emperor Realm powerhouses. Gazing at the pills, Xingchen couldn't help but grin and chuckle softly. The Yao race currently had 20 immortal emperors. Add Tianxia Tower's 10, and that made 30 future great emperors. Power no hidden world force could match. Yet the Yao race's absolute top-tier combat power might still fall short of the hidden world forces. But with Xingchen present, all of that could be ignored. Seated in his chair, Xingchen couldn't help closing his eyes and humming softly. The next instant, Luo Qingshan's figure soundlessly appeared beside him. Seeing Xingchen reclining with legs crossed, face full of joy and humming away, she couldn't hold back a soft puff of laughter. Hearing the sound, Xingchen turned, spotted Luo Qingshan, gave an embarrassed laugh, rose and ushered her to the chair, saying gently, "Wifey, you're back so soon? Finished already?" Xingchen asked curiously. After all, comprehending the great Tao was exceedingly complex and couldn't be explained in a short while. Looking at her slightly flustered husband, Luo Qingshan smiled and said, "Every member of the Yao race was probably contemplating the Tao beneath the Bodhi divine tree for the first time. all entered the deepest state of enlightenment, something unimaginable before. Luo Xingchen saw they wouldn't wake for some time, so she returned. I have something to discuss and wish to hear husband's view. Hearing her words, Xingchen took Luo Xingchen's hand and said softly, Wifey decides everything. Whatever it is, your husband will listen. Luo Xingchen's eyes showed a flicker of emotion, yet she still spoke. Husband, ancestor Luo Xiannu has just returned with astonishing news. The Heavenly Dao Sect's Heavenly Dao Golden List has emerged. Seeing her husband frown, Luo Xingchen, knowing he had never heard of it, smiled gently and continued. Husband, the Heavenly Dao Golden List is the sect's clan-suppressing treasure. Legend says it embodies the Heavenly Dao will and represents the Dao itself. It only appears when the Great Era arrives, automatically sensing every peerless prodigy across the divine wilderness continent. All who ascend the list are destined to become mighty overlords. It records only the 99 most heaven-defying prodigies under 100 years of age, never erring since primordial times. The people of divine wilderness trust it without doubt. Now that the list has appeared, Heavenly Dao Sect will surely act, perhaps even open the ancient god cemetery ahead of time. Luo Xingchen wants every Yao clansman to comprehend the great Dao law and expound the Dao methods. Time is short, so I'd like husband to travel alone to Central Emperor Province. You can visit little sister Snow Smoke. If the cemetery opens, Luo Xingchen will lead the Yao disciples to rendezvous with you. If not, you've promised Snow Smoke a visit. Perfect chance to see Central Emperor Province. Xingchen's eyes lit up. He'd long been intrigued by the ancient god cemetery, yet seeing the smile on Luo Xingchen's lips, he didn't know how to reply. After all, he truly wished to see Central Emperor Province and visit Myriad Flower's divine palace to meet Hua Shuyan, that stunning, proud, yet boldly affectionate woman. Besides, he wondered how Tianxia Tower was faring. He had sent them to gather information. Now that his conjectures were confirmed, he ought to see them and learn Yuan Long and Qin Feng's plans. Noticing the gleam in her husband's eyes, Luo Xingchen gave a helpless smile and asked, What does husband think? Knowing his clever wife could read his mind, Xingchen hid nothing and replied, Good. Your husband also wants to see Central Emperor Province. Hearing this, Luo Xingchen smiled gently and asked, When will husband set out? Xingchen grinned mischievously at her and said, When does wifey wish your husband to leave? Seeing his teasing grin and recalling his earlier words, Luo Xingchen blushed, shot him a fierce glare, and, as if fleeing, vanished on spot. Xingchen watched his shyly departing wife and couldn't help roaring with triumphant laughter. P.S. First off, Jasmine here thanks all you dear readers for your tips and messages. I saw them all and will strive to update. Thank you, everyone.